Su Qingwei cried out in shock. Ah, isn't that our academy's Gui Han? Why is he so rash? Yu Xingyang had also came out for some time and was just standing behind him, displaying an angered look. What rash? That fellow have already bullied us to our doorstep, this manner. Who can tolerate it? Senior Brother Gu, well done. Su Qingwei stared at him and said, Why are you getting on with the bustle too? We've just arrived, and if we were to start fighting with the elder's relative, what good would come out of it? Senior Brother Gu is so rash, other than getting beaten up. What other advantages could he gain? Yu Xingyang heard that and replied in an extremely unconvinced manner. What does that mean? How do you know that Senior Brother Gu would surely lose? That fatty Wang is merely at 3rd stage realm peak cultivation. Senior Brother is at least on 3rd stage realm 8th level. The disparity between the two of them are not large. Senior Brother Gu has lots of experience in battling opponents, so he might have a chance at victory. Yu Xingyang's words just ended as he heard Huang Yueli sighing by the side. Senior Brother Yu, I think you're too optimistic. Senior Brother Gu, seems as though he's going to be in deep trouble. Everyone hurriedly raised their heads to take a look. While they were talking, Gu Yihan and Fatty Wang had already exchanged multiple blows. Gu Yihan's strikes were fast like lightning and aggressive, whereas Fatty Wang only kept giggling, totally disregarding his attacks. Anyone with eyes were able to tell that Fatty Wang was just playing around with him. After he had enough of tantalizing him, Fatty Wang finally sneered, as he said, You only have those little tricks up your sleeves? Is there any more? If no, then this Sir Fatty is not going to stand on ceremony. Saying that, he suddenly struck out, as a remnant figure flashed past in midair. Immediately following that, Gu Yihan gave a miserable shriek, as his body was thrown up into midair, crashing heavily on the tree branch far away. The entire place was silent. No one had expected that Fatty Wang, who looked as fat as a pig, actually had such swift movements. Moreover, he intentionally showed off his might, so he intentionally hit out a heavy strike. Some students rushed beside Gu Yihan, and while trying to help him up, they realized that several ribs were broken, and he had sustained a very serious internal injury, so he couldn't get up at all. Senior Brother Gu, how are you? Heavens, how could your injuries be so serious? Isn't that Fatty's move a little too vicious? This really is too much. All of us are Celestial Light sect disciples. No matter what, we are pupils under the same master. How could you be so vicious? That's right. The sect regulations said that you cannot lay murderous hands on pupils from the same master. Let's go report this to the administrator. Those newly ascended disciples present were feeling indignant, but among them, Gu Yihan was already the top 5 most powerful person. So if even he had been beaten till this stage, then Fatty Wang's ability was somewhat imaginable. No matter how infuriated everyone was, but all of them had their own worries, so they only dared to stand there to berate him and not daring to go up to punch him. Fatty Wang apparently understood this point, as his smile got even more gleeful. That wobbly fats on his face were shaking oily ly, looking extremely disgusting. You bunch of cowards! If you have the ability, then come over and beat me back? What ability is that to secretly report to the administrator? Trash will be trash. You can go ahead and try reporting to the administrator, see if he will care about you all. The sect regulations indeed mention that we cannot lay a murderous hand on pupils from the same master. But I've not killed him, isn't it? Moreover, it was this trashy goo guy who started the fight. So, Sir Fatty, I was only acting in self-defense. You can also listen on. Hearing such thick-skinned, shameless, turning black into white words. All of them were choking with anger, but none of them dared to stand out. Because Fatty Wang didn't come alone, he brought along a large group of outer disciples as his underlings. Fatty Wang waited for a moment, and seeing no one talk, he laughed loudly as he left his last diplomatic note. All right, since no one objects, then everyone let's hurry up your actions and move out quickly. Sir Fatty, I haven't slept well for the entire night, so I'm waiting to go in and sleep. Huang Yueli frowned, as she couldn't force herself to continue listening to his words. Although she didn't want to risk exposing her real identity on the first day of smuggling in by fighting with someone, but this fatty was just too arrogant, which no one could tolerate. She took a step forward and was just about to make a move. Suddenly, a voice was heard from the outside of the door. Senior Brother Wong, although we newcomers have just reported to the sect and haven't gone around greeting the senior brothers, that is indeed our wrong. But surely you needn't push us so far, right? After all, we are all senior and junior brothers. So in future, we will be meeting one another rather often, so why do this? Everyone hurriedly looked outside, and a few of them expressed a joyous look. It's Senior Brother Yuan. That's great. Senior Brother Yuan is here. With Senior Brother Yuan here, he will be able to teach this disgusting fatty a severe lesson. Everyone started cheering immediately. Actually, among these people, some of them had a feud with Yuan Ziyu. For example, Yu Xinyang and the rest. In the past, they were bullied by Yuan Ziyu's underlings. But now is not like the past. Everyone was trying to get on with their lives in Celestial Light Sect, especially now that the practitioners in Celestial Light Academy were all staying in the same courtyard. There was no exception for Yuan Ziyu. In order not to be chased out, he definitely would represent this courtyard to make a move. Everyone present knew clearly what was Yuan Ziyu's ability. Before Huang Yueli and Li Moing appeared, he was number 1 in Celestial Light Sect. Even the number 2's Lu Ziju wasn't his opponent. So even Huang Yueli heaved a sigh of relief. These Celestial Light Academies, students' cultivations weren't much different from that bunch of guys who Fatty had brought along. The only difference was Fatty Wong was Celestial Light Sect's older people. So they had learnt various high-level profound skills, and it was especially advantageous when they faced each other. But Yuan Ziyu was a 6th grade upper-level talent, and he was born in the number 1 family in Sky Cloud City. The number of high-level profound skills he learnt wasn't any lesser as well, so he was able to match up against Fatty Wong. Indeed, after Yuan Ziyu walked in, he didn't bother with talking as he struck out towards Fatty Wong. Fatty Wong originally was sneering. Haha, another one coming to deliver his death. Since you don't want your life, then you shall allow this Sir Fatty to loosen your skin. However, he had just finished his words when Yuan Ziyu's profound skill was already right in front of his face. The speed was so fast that it surpassed his expectations. What? Fatty Wong sucked in a mouthful of cold air as he reacted to evade it, but it was too late. His ability was originally weaker than Yuan Ziyu. Plus the fact that he had underestimated his opponent, it gave the opponent an opportunity. Fatty Wong was struck heavily by that strike as he instantly retreated several steps as blood started to trickle out of the corner of his mouth. Great! Senior Brother Yuan is really too powerful. Show that Fatty some colors. That's right, damn Fatty. Who asked you to look down on Celestial Light Academy? Just wait for Senior Brother Yuan to beat you into a pancake. Senior Brother Yuan, we're cheering for you. The crowd started to get excited and started to encourage and cheer for Yuan Ziyu. But Huang Yueli realized that something wasn't right as her brows creased slightly. You can also listen on. After Fatty Wong was injured by Yuan Ziyu, he wiped off the traces of blood on his lips hard, as he got so infuriated that his fats started to shake. He Fatty Wong, although wasn't powerful and his cultivation isn't high, but just based on the fact that he was a distant relative of Elder Wong, he was considered to be the chief among the outer disciples. Along with these lackeys beside him, he went around bullying those outer disciples with no background, especially those newcomers who joined yearly, which of them had not been repeatedly squeezed and exploited till they were left with only their trousers. Today he heard that a new bunch of outer disciples came in, so Fatty Wong happily rushed over with his lackeys, thinking to earn a fortune from these newcomers, as well as to show off his might. After all, with his cultivation and power, he could only put up a false pretense in front of those newly joined outer disciples. In the end, just as he was gleeful, he had been struck with a pole and viciously slapped on the face. Fatty Wong's embarrassment turned into anger, as his face flushed red and pointing at Yuan Ziyu. He said maliciously, "You fellow, don't be too delightful. Things are not done yet." Sir Fatty, I haven't displayed all of my power. I advise you to kneel down on the ground and kowtow to me to apologize otherwise. I'll show you some colors later. Obviously, Yuan Ziyu didn't bother about his nonsensical words, as he used a neither servile nor overbearing tone to reply. I have obviously won. Why do I need to kowtow and apologize? Senior Brother Wang better leave here quickly. In case we really get into a real fight later on, then both of us will incur losses. You dare treat this Sir Fatty words like air? Fatty Wang's anger arose, and he was unable to tolerate the raging fire in his chest as he simply lashed out. His right hand rose up, and a gold light flashed past. Following that, a large Iron Claw Silver Wolf appeared in front of everyone. The Iron Claw Silver Wolf was a 4th-tier magical beast, and furthermore, it was famous for its powerful attack and speed. This kind of magical beast, although wasn't rare, but was extremely difficult to capture alive, so there were few people who were able to contact an Iron Claw Silver Wolf. This Fatty Wang was merely a 3rd-stage realm peak practitioner, but managed to successfully contract an Iron Claw Silver Wolf. Furthermore, this Wilver Wolf's fur was silvery bright. Its physique was healthy and beautiful, so it should be an extremely well-built, matured silver wolf. The minute this silver wolf appeared, all the newcomers present shut their mouths up, not daring to say a single word. Even Yuan Ziyu's expression turned pale. If it was merely Fatty's own power, he naturally didn't thought that he would lose to him, but if including this silver wolf, Yuan Ziyu practically had no chances of victory. Because this silver wolf itself was already 4th tier, its level had already surpassed his, plus magical beast battle power were usually higher than practitioners by an entire realm. So this silver wolf was equivalent to a 5th-stage realm top expert. Yuan Ziyu wasn't a heaven-grade genius like Huang Yueli. So how would he get the ability to stride over 2 large realms to battle? This kind of matter, he didn't even dare to think about it. Seeing Yuan Ziyu's terror-stricken expression, Fatty Wang finally felt that he got his face back, so that complacency was written on his face, which didn't require any telling at all, especially when those lackeys by Fatty Wang's side, who kept fawning on him. HMPF, you bunch of penniless imbeciles from the academy, haven't seen any high-level magical beasts? Only our brilliant and awesome senior brother Wang here has the ability to get the sex top experts to contract a 4th-tier magical beast to become his spiritual pet. Isn't that so? People just cannot be compared. Those originally lower-class people dare to not give senior brother Wang face? Still not going to kneel and kowtow? Otherwise, the Iron Claw Silver Wolf won't know how to give anyone face. If it accidentally bit you to death alive, then it's just your bad luck. You can also listen on. As the lackeys started to add in their opinions by adding bits and pieces, the expression on Fatty Wang's face was super undulated, whereas Yuan Ziyu's expression grew uglier by the minute. Of course, he didn't want to kowtow to a scum like Fatty Wang, but facing such a huge, ferocious magical beast, there was no possibility of resistance completely, as magical beasts were not like humans. The minute their rage arose, it was possible it would cause him to be crippled for life, and that to practitioners was a serious damage which would affect their cultivation. Ow! Still not going to kneel down? Fatty Wang sneered as he waved his hand. Iron Claw Silver Wolf slowly inched in towards Yuan Ziyu, as though it only required a command from Fatty Wang for it to pounce upwards to tear him apart. Those freshmen present were all shocked out of their souls, and didn't dare to stand too near Yuan Ziyu. Some of them had even started to slip secretly back into their rooms to pack their luggage, preparing to scram from his courtyard, in case they suffered more humiliation from Fatty Wang. Yuan Ziyu's jaw locked tightly, as he clenched his teeth, not saying a single word, although his feet were starting to tremble. But the thought of having to kneel in front of such a scum like Fatty Wang made him unable to do so at all. Fatty Wang gave a sardonic smile as he said, "Looks like you've hardened your heart and planning on having a taste of being bitten by the silver wolf. This Sir Fatty shall grant your wish." The minute his words ended, he swiftly waved his hand, and the iron claw silver wolf leapt up instantaneously, leaping high up into the sky, charging towards Yuan Ziyu's face. Yuan Ziyu withdrew himself and tried to hide, but the iron claw silver wolf's speed was extremely fast. The silvery shadow was like a bolt of lightning. He totally had no way to evade it, and could only shut his eyes tightly, waiting for the pain of being torn to shreds. But the pain which he was expecting did not descend on him. He only heard a soft Z noise when the iron claw silver wolf suddenly gave a bitter howl as it fell from the sky and rolled about on the ground. Yuan Ziyu could tell that something was not right as he blankly opened his eyes. The scene which entered his wide eyes had him thought that he was still dreaming. All the others present were also shocked, and it took quite a while for them to regain their senses. Heavens, what happened earlier? Why did that silver wolf suddenly fall down? Did Senior Brother Yuan injure it? Not right. I feel it's impossible. Earlier, Senior Brother Yuan had already shut his eyes waiting for his death. How could he suddenly turn defeat into victory? What is this situation? Could it be that someone saved Senior Brother Yuan? This isn't possible. The few of us, our potential just cannot be compared to Senior Brother Yuan. So where would the expert come from? And how can we even possibly save him? Amidst the crowd's discussions, Fatty Wong pounced towards the iron claw silver wolf side and spent quite an amount of effort to make its struggles become less intense, before flipping its rear leg's fur to discover a sharp dagger stabbed onto its right rear leg. That dagger was extremely thin, but exceptional sharp. When placed against the sunlight, it was almost transparent, so that was why no one had noticed this dagger and could only see the silver wolf falling down. Su Qingwei and Yu Xinyang looked towards Huang Yueli at the same time, with a shocked and revered look. Huang Yueli had constructed plenty of such daggers, and he had seen them several times. Needless to say, the person who struck earlier was definitely her. Only, the two of them had been standing beside her, and had not noticed when and how had she actually made the move. You can also listen on. This meant that Huang Yueli's ability, compared to when she was in Celestial Light Academy, she had improved yet again. Such a perfected technique of using the concealed weapon. What level was her current cultivation and ability right now? The two of them were unable to guess the answer, and in their hearts the reverence towards this sweet-looking third miss had increased. Don't think that her outer appearance was so gentle, but only those who understood her would know that her gentle appearance laid hidden an extremely powerful, peerless expert. Fatty Wong tightened his hand's round dagger as his hand started to tremble. He had been fooling around in Celestial Light Sect for his entire time, and he knew good stuff when he saw it. The dagger right before his eyes was obviously a 5th grade and above profound artifact. Even among those inner disciples in Celestial Light Sect, not everyone were able to afford this. Could it be that the one who saved Yuan Ziyu was actually an inner disciple, or perhaps even a direct disciple? How is that possible? These people had just arrived, so how is it possible for them to know any upper management people within the sect? But if that was not the case, why would the other part be willing to casually throw out such an expensive 5th grade profound artifact? Further, the speed of the strike was so fast that it was never heard of, and it could even match the silver wolf's moving speed, pinpointing the attack accurately on its rear leg's meridian. Such powerful potential. How could it possibly be anyone ordinary? The more Fatty Wong thought, the more frightened he was. Don't think that he was usually so arrogant, but he could only relied on his status as Elder Wong's distant relative to swindle people only. There was no one among the outer disciples who knew his background. In actual fact, he had not even met Elder Wong before, and Elder Wong probably don't even knew who he was. So how would he possibly give him preferential treatment? If today there really was a direct disciple who couldn't stand his ways, and even made a move to teach his silver wolf a lesson, then he really had no possibility of resistance at all. Fatty Wong's legs softened into a heap as he knelt onto the ground and furiously kowtowed. His mouth started spurting out repentance on all the evil deeds that he had done. May I know which senior brother or senior uncle had made the move? This disciple knows I'm done wrong. Please do not punish me. I will not bully any freshman in future and will absolutely change my evil ways for the better. Please. Will senior please let me off? The action of Fatty Wong suddenly kowtowing in midair made the surrounding crowd went into a daze. But Fatty Wong's lackeys immediately reacted and started kowtowing behind him. As for the new disciples, their reactions were slightly retarded, and it took some time for them to realize that it should be some powerful existence within Celestial Light Sect who lent a helping hand in secret, thus saving Yuan Ziyu. As for Fatty Wong, who only knew how to bully the weak and feared the strong, even though that mysterious expert hadn't revealed himself, but this had already scared him out of his wits. Haha, isn't Fatty Wong a little too laughable? Earlier, isn't he still trying to force senior brother Yuan to kowtow? And now? Why is he kneeling on the ground himself, kowtowing nonstop? Isn't that so? Looks like you can anyhow eat, but you can't talk anyhow. Earlier he said to kowtow, and now he's kowtowing himself. This is called retribution. Everyone was rejoicing over his misfortune. Fatty Wong was so angry that he was going insane, but unfortunately he was apprehensive about this senior top expert, who had not revealed himself, so he didn't dare to act up immediately. But in his heart, he kept cursing nonstop. Just you all wait. Today the top expert happened to pass by, so I'll just let you all off for the moment, but after today, I will definitely make you repay this back double-fold. Fatty Wong's malicious expression naturally had not escaped Huang Yueli's eyes. You can also listen on. If it was usual times, she would definitely have stood out to teach him an unforgettable lesson. If he wasn't convinced, she would continue beating him, all the way until he's convinced. If he still wasn't, then just send him off the heavens. But today her heart was filled with Li Moying's matters. So considering the benefits and losses, she chose not to reveal herself. Anyway, this Fatty Wong would not dare to take any action for the next few days, and she didn't need to reveal her own identity. This was the best outcome of having the best of both worlds. If there was anything else, wait till she had settled with Li Moying first. Huang Yueli was thinking in this way, and she silently retreated a few steps as she prepared to leave. This farce was already at the ending point, and she no longer had any interest to continue watching. But just at the instant when she turned around, the iron claw silver wolf, which was continuously howling on the ground, suddenly leapt upwards. Little silver, even Fatty Wong had a shock from its reaction. The iron claw silver rolled sharp like iron claws dug onto the ground for a few times before it rose its neck and gave a horrendous wolf howl, after which it swiftly leapt up and charged towards Huang Yueli's back. Heavens! Be careful! No! Waves of shocking shrieks and air being sucked in was heard. When Su Qingwei and Yu Xinyang saw that, they wanted to pull Huang Yueli aside, but their reactions were not quick enough. On the other hand, the silver wolf's speed was shockingly fast. It only took a blink of an eye, as it had already pounced towards the front, its sharp, large claws stretched outwards, as it started to claw towards Huang Yueli's back. All of them held their breaths. They were so anxious as their entire bodies started trembling. There was nothing to obstruct the silver wolf's claw, as it ferociously clawed downwards. Sisterly, Su Qingwei covered her eyes, not daring to take a further look. But immediately following that, Yu Xinyang, who was standing beside her, gave an astonished gasp. Huh? Su Qingwei opened her eyes and saw a silver light flashed in front of her eye. The silver wolf's claw actually struck nothing, whereas Huang Yueli's original position had already been left empty, without a trace of anyone at all. Before anyone could react, Huang Yueli's figure had already appeared behind the silver wolf's back. Her right hand struck out lightly, and a sword pierced right into the middle of the wolf's back. A loud bam was heard, and before the silver wolf could even howl out, it crashed heavily onto the ground, as it was killed in just one strike. For a moment, no one made any sound in the entire courtyard. Everyone just stared blankly at the spot which Huang Yueli was standing at, and the silver wolf's carcass which was laid beside her feet, as they all bore a dumbstruck expression on their faces. Everyone felt that they must have developed hallucination. What was this situation? How was it possible for such a thing to happen? This was a powerful, matured Iron Claw Silver Wolf, a fourth-tier magical beast, which was equivalent to a fifth-stage realm practitioner. Earlier, even Celestial Light Academy's #1 expert, Yuan Ziyu, was totally immovable under the threat of the Iron Claw Silver Wolf, as he obediently waited to become the sacrificial victim for the wolf. But now, that powerful, mighty, and undefeatable Iron Claw Silver Wolf actually was killed in just one strike from an extremely normal-looking lady? Did it need to be that ridiculous? But the truth laid in front of their eyes. After a while, Fatty Wong was the first to regain his senses as he immediately started screeching loudly, "My silver wolf! My silver wolf! This is my Iron Claw Silver Wolf, which I've thought of many ways, spent so much money, and even begged so many elders in the family before I managed to successfully contract it." He raced over and plopped right onto his silver wolf's body. "Get up! Don't keep lying down! Quickly get up! Don't pretend to be dead." You can also listen on. Fatty Wong was determined not to believe that his Iron Claw Silver Wolf had died, and tried his hardest to shake its body, thinking that it was faking its death. He simply cannot accept this truth. As he usually rode roughshod over the outer disciples, other than relying on Elder Wong's reputation, he still required a little bit of real ability. But as his own cultivation couldn't mate it, just based on his own ability, sometimes he wasn't even able to match up against those freshmen, like Yuan Ziyu, who had just joined the sect. So in order to be able to hold up the situation, he could only rely on this Iron Claw Silver Wolf. If he didn't have this wolf, then in future, how was he going to maintain his prestige? How could he make those outer disciples who he had bullied into listening to his commands obediently and not sought revenge? The more Fatty Wong thought, the more his heart was incinerating. But no matter how much he shook, Silver Wolf just didn't budge an inch. In fact, its body temperature was gradually turning colder. Fatty Wong then screeched out, "Impossible! You wretched lass, you slut! You actually kill my silver wolf. I'm going to fight it out with you, Dash." He turned around and saw Huang Yueli with her arms crossed, as she stood behind him, and abruptly pounced towards her. Be careful. Junior Sister Yi, be careful." Amidst the crowd's shrilling voices, Huang Yueli was calm and unhurried. Just based on Fatty Wong's bit of ability, if it was before she had entered the inheritance tower, she still had to deal with him carefully. But now in her eyes, he seemed to be like a young boy dancing around, totally not posing any threats to her. She waved casually, and a burst of fire attributed profound energy was unleashed as it crashed onto Fatty Wong's tummy in midair. Fatty Wong was originally rushing forward wildly, but had been dismissed by a simple move as he instantly flew the opposite direction. He totally seemed to be like a broken kite. Fatty Wong flew in the air for a while before crashing onto the courtyard's other end of the wall, smashing the entire wall to smithereens. When the wall crashed, it gave out a loud boom sound. All the birds which built their nests on those surrounding big trees all flew away in shock, chirping as they started to fly round in circles above Fatty Wong's head. Everyone were dumbfounded, and by the time they regained their senses, they dashed towards the rear courtyard to see Fatty Wong's miserable condition. Before they could close in, from far, a strange fragrance entered their nostrils. What smell is that? Strange, why does it smell like barbecued meat? Everyone looked at one another in dismay. By the time they reached Fatty Wong, everyone discovered that the ball of fire which Huang Yueli casually tossed had lit up Fatty Wong's body. Furthermore, probably because he was too fat and the amount of oil on his body was a lot, that bundle of fire grew larger and larger, totally unstoppable, as it emitted wafts of tempting barbecued smell. Some others even made a gulping sound as they swallowed their saliva. If it wasn't for the fact that the situation was too strange, probably a lot of them were already rolling themselves on the ground from laughter. Although Fatty Wong was in this state, which was very satisfying to appease their anger. But this place was after all still within the sect, and if anyone was found murdering another in the sect, the situation would become severe. Those present would be driven out of the sect, and possibly even sent to the water prison. So after everyone surrounded Fatty Wong to take a look, they started to put out the fire on him. Some water-attributed practitioners surrounded Fatty Wong and utilized their powers before they finally managed to extinguish the fire on him. This attributed to Huang Yueli being merciful as well, that she didn't use her deviant flames. Otherwise, Fatty Wong would really be turned into barbecued meat. Just sprinkle some salt over him, and he could be served right on the dining table. You can also listen on. But even so, Fatty Wong cut in extremely sorry state right now. Most of his skin were burnt, revealing a charred black color, and some places even exposed his bones, blood, and flesh. Huang Yueli was the last to arrive, and on seeing this, she was extremely speechless as well. To tell the truth, she only wanted to teach Fatty Wong a small lesson. Just breaking a few of his bones would do. She had not expected Fatty Wong to be so fat. Once he was burnt, his oil kept dripping, and subsequently the fire could not be stopped. It was such a tragedy, but she wasn't a saint, so no matter how miserable Fatty Wong was, it was something which he deserved. So, Huang Yueli merely expressed her sympathy emblematically and was preparing to leave. But at this moment, Fatty Wong finally regained consciousness. The minute he opened his eyes, he felt his entire body in extreme pain, and when he lowered his head to take a look, he almost lost his consciousness again. He turned his head and saw Huang Yueli, who stood in the corner, who was preparing to leave. Immediately, a burst of anger lifted to his chest, and he couldn't swallow it at all. Fatty Wong expended all the energy in his body before he managed to lift out his finger as he pointed his trembling finger towards Huang Yueli. You? Just wait, sir. Fatty, I is not finished with you. Huang Yueli blinked as she laughed out uncontrollably and said with ridicule, I say, stupid Fatty, are you a joker? Just based on you, how are you going to show me any colors? You'd better control yourself properly. Fatty Wong's lackeys had already hurried over and stayed by his side as they started standing up retorting in anger. Helping Fatty Wong accused her. You still have the cheek to laugh. How could there be such a malicious woman like you in this world, to use such a cruel way to hurt your own people from the same master? If this was heard by Elder Wong, just wait to be torn into pieces. Huang Yueli's smile totally could not be stopped. All right, stop creating a comedy. Let's not talk about whether this Mr. Wong has the ability to contact Elder Wong. Even if you had the ability, what can you do to me? I was purely defending myself. Everyone present had seen that it was your iron claw silver wolf which pounced over to bite me first, so I'm acting in self-defense by stabbing it once. In the end, your embarrassment turned into anger and tried to kill so surely I cannot just sit there and wait to die, right? How would I know that I merely struck out in defense lightly and caused you to be injured to such a state? This fat senior brother, I'm really sorry for that. Although she said sorry for that, but anyone could tell that her apology wasn't sincere at all, but was merely fleeting words of ridicule. Moreover, the more infuriating part was she kept emphasizing that she was acting in self-defense. This was simply slapping Fatty Wong on his face alive. Earlier, when Fatty Wong hit the freshman, he kept emphasizing that it was the freshman who struck against him first. So he was only defending himself. Now, Huang Yueli took the same words and threw it back on his face. Furthermore, what Huang Yueli said was absolutely correct. Earlier, she indeed was only acting in self-defense. No matter if it was stabbing the Iron Claw Silver Wolf with just one pierce, or burning Fatty Wong with just one move, she wasn't the one who took action first. She was only defending herself, and lightly, making one move only. Just only one move. But why was there such a dire consequence later on? Anyone just needed to think through it. That was because Fatty Wong was just too weak. You can also listen on. Fatty Wong was humiliated completely, and he couldn't hang on much further as his vision turned black, and he fell onto the ground, fainting once again. That bunch of lackeys hurriedly ran over, and holding his fat figure up, they turned around and left, not daring to say another word more. What joke was that? Such a terrifying fourth-tier magical beast, Iron Claw Silver Wolf, and it had been killed with just a single strike from the weak lady's sword. The cultivation levels from the few of them couldn't even match up Fatty Wong. And now they're jumping out to challenge her. Wasn't that equivalent to looking for their own deaths? They remembered to carry Fatty Wong away, and that was already considered sentimental enough. After Fatty Wong left, everyone's gazes towards Huang Yueli were filled with terror, astonishment, and reverence. As she was playing Yi Zhao's identity, Yi Zhao's character was usually very introvert. She belonged to those kind whose face would flushed red when talking. Although Yi Zhao's innate talent wasn't bad, and her cultivation level wasn't too low, but due to her character, it caused her actual combat side to be lacking. But today, she had actually shown such resoluteness when she struck, not leaving any room to maneuver, using just one move to defeat the opponent. This kind of thing had never happened on Yi Xiao before. Huang Yueli saw the crowd closing in and silently felt a little vexed. It was all that damn fatty's fault, and his overly sensitive smelling silver wolf. The reason why that silver wolf suddenly pounced over to bite her was obviously because it had smelt the remnant smell from that dagger, realizing that she was the main culprit who attacked it, so it came over to exact revenge. Whereas Huang Yueli had reacted naturally under a critical situation, as she subconsciously did her killer move, which claimed its life. In the end, her thoughts of continuing to become an invisible woman in the sect, after bearing for an entire morning, was exposed just like that. She hadn't even lasted for an entire day, and now she became yet another legendary figure. Looked like in her life, the two phrases ordinary and low-key were not in her dictionary. But even though she had behaved so strangely, Huang Yueli still didn't want to say out her own identity, so she could only take the strategy of not admitting. A bunch of freshman disciples crowded around her, asking her various questions. Junior Sister Yi, when did you become so powerful? You actually managed to defeat the fourth-tier magical beast in just one move. That's right, the last time you had a battle with me, you were still very nervous and could not even hold up your sword stability. How many months has it been since? And you suddenly made such a huge improvement from then. Junior Sister Yi, have you been taken in as disciple by some hidden expert? Quick, point me a clear route. Facing everyone's inquiries, Huang Yueli only gave a false smile. My potential had been raised? That's right, the last time I was in a hurry to cultivate, so I went into chi deviation. When my internal injury recuperated, my cultivation suddenly increased, so I didn't thought much of it. How did I defeat the magical beast? I was too shocked then and totally don't know what I was doing. There was a thought that flashed across my mind, and that was I couldn't die. By the time I regained my consciousness, that silver wolf was already dead. Quickly tell me, what on earth have I done? Everyone had on a dull expression when she countered them with the questions. On seeing everyone in a daze, Huang Yueli took the opportunity to put oil on her feet as she slipped away. That speed was so fast that no one had any way to stop her. The new disciples were not familiar with Yi Xiao, and because Huang Yueli's disguise was extremely well done, her imitation was perfect, so most of them had not thought that anyone would assume her identity. You can also listen on. On the contrary, it was Yuan Ziyu whose gaze deepened as he looked thoughtfully at Huang Yueli's departing figure. Huang Yueli couldn't be bothered to care about what others thought. Anyway, Li Moying was going to go back soon, so as long as she could last till then, that would do. So, her main energy was left on researching on how to meet Li Moying, as she specially formulated several plans. Su Qingwei appeared rather worried. Although that fatty Wang doesn't seem like he knows Elder Wang, but I heard that he was Administrator Chen's nephew. Now that we're under Administrator Chen's charge, I wonder if this matter was spread to his ears. Would he find trouble with you on behalf of Fatty Wang? Yu Xinyang, however, seemed very excited. What's there to be afraid of? Third Miss has such strong ability. Even if that Administrator Chen dared to, she could send him flying with one slap. Huang Yueli merely smiled when she heard what he said, as she didn't reply nor placed any concern on this matter. That night, In Administrator Chen's courtyard, Fatty Wong was hugging his thigh as he sobbed, a pool of tears and mucus dripping, looking extremely miserable. "Uncle, I'm ruined this time around. My silver wolf was killed, and I've been burned into this state. You must help me get back at her." Administrator Chen looked at his charred face and had a huge fright. What happened to you? Who injured you to this state? Have you offended any elders, direct disciples? Haven't I told you this many times? Just that little bit of ability, you can only mingle around among the outer disciples. Don't go around ruffling up the inner and direct disciples. They would not even be the least bit scared of me. Neither would they believe that you are Elder Wong's relative. Fatty Wong hurriedly explained, "Uncle, I've really listened to you and not go around creating trouble. The person who beat me up this time is an outer disciple." "What? How is that possible? Didn't you said that your iron claw silver wolf has been killed? 4 outer disciples to injure you. That's possible, but to kill your 4th-tier iron claw silver wolf? How could that be possible?" Administrator Chun said in astonishment. Fatty Wong raised his hands up to vouch as he explained further, "Uncle, I really am not lying to you. The person who injured me, if the newly advanced outer disciple who just reported 2 days ago, I heard she's one of them who passed Celestial Light Academy's ranking examinations to join the sect." "What? Celestial Light Academy?" Administrator Chun frowned as he tried to recall, but still felt incredulous. "Not possible, right? I've taken a look at the name list of those who came from Celestial Light Academy, and among them, only Yuan Ziyu is slightly more powerful. Is he the one who injured you? Then that would be difficult to settle." "I heard that the Yuan family had an elder in the sect too." Fatty Wong shook his head. "No, not him. It's a 16 or 17-year-old lady. I've specially sent someone over to check on her. She's called Yi Xiao, and her family background is very ordinary, but she's a 6th-grade talent." Administrator Chen responded, "Yi Xiao? The one who was late because she went into chi deviation? Seems to have some impression of her." Fatty Wong immediately replied, "Uncle, you must help me. I cannot be beaten up by someone for nothing, and my silver wolf cannot die for nothing. Otherwise, other people would think that, Uncle, your words are not of use at all. I've checked very clearly that Yi Xiao's family has no background, so dealing with her would definitely not cause any problems." He was sure that he only needed to open his mouth to ask, and Administrator Chen would immediately agree to it. You can also listen on. This uncle of his had always doted on him. If it hadn't been for Administrator Chen's protection, a scum like Fatty Wong would have long been killed by those seeking revenge on him. So how would he be able to stay so lively until today? But this time, Administrator Chen didn't nod in agreement immediately, but revealed a difficult expression. If you only need to give her a light punishment, that's no problem, but if you want that last life or come out with any large actions, then this probably would be tough." Fatty Wong was injury-ridden, was in extreme pain, but he still endured all of that to fawn on Administrator Chun. All that was just because he wanted him to help get back at her. Even in his dreams, he wanted Huang Yueli to die immediately. In the end, Administrator Chen only gave him this reply, and that made Fatty Wong so infuriated that he almost jumped up. "Why, Uncle? Aren't you my biological uncle? That wretched lass killed my silver wolf. How much money my family had spent in order to get me that wolf. You know that best. Even I almost died in her hands. And you're not going to help me at all?" He wailed, and as he cried, he acted shamelessly, almost to the point of dropping to the ground and rolled about. Administrator Chan was helpless as he hurriedly replied, "Sai, this child, why are you so anxious? Have I said that I won't help? But I have my own difficulty as well." "What difficulty? Why don't you rack your brains and think? Today, if you're the one who injured Yi Xiao, I can help you torture her to death, but now she killed your silver wolf, and it was right in front of so many people's eyes, killing it with one strike. What did that mean? It means that her actual combat ability is at least 5th stage realm and above. She's only 16, and with such ability, it already spelt clearly that she's an exceptional talent." When Fatty Wong heard that, he suddenly thought of other crucial points, and instantly, as though struck by lightning, his entire body turned icy cold. Administrator Chun continued. So with her innate talent to become an inner disciple, or even a direct disciple, it would be a matter-of-fact thing. Furthermore, your battle was done openly. So many people had seen it. It would probably not take a few days' time before this reaches the sect master or elder's ears. Now that our sect and West Sky Region sect is on bad terms, we are now eagerly seeking after men of worth and ability. And hearing about such a moldable character, would they not immediately come and take them under their wing? But what should we do then? Don't tell me we really can't do anything to her? Administrator Chin sighed and said, not that there's no other way, but we need to plan a strategy in advance. You should have heard about this too. Young sect master will be returning to the sect on the day after, and all of us administrators will need to go and receive him. Right now, young sect master is the most important person in the sect, and moreover, hadn't he been staying in Celestial Light Sect for a period of time earlier? Perhaps by then he might want to meet up with those people whom he knows. So if we intend to deal with that lass, we must at least wait till young sect master leaves. Fatty Wong was so anxious that he stomped his feet. Wait. When must we wait until? Just like what Uncle you said, if the time drags on any longer and that wretched lass is being discovered by some elder and becomes a direct disciple, then we will have no way of dealing with her. We can't even harm one hair of hers by then. That's true, too. Administrator Chun felt that he had some logic to his saying and started to feel perplexed as he frowned and entered into deep thoughts. After some time, his eyes lit up and he straightened his spine. I've got it. Fatty Wong hurriedly asked, Got what? Uncle, what idea have you thought of? You can also listen on. Administrator Chun revealed a smile as he continued. I've thought of an idea, that is to borrow someone's knife to kill another. Borrow someone's knife to kill another? Borrow whose knife? Fatty Wong was still puzzled. Administrator Chin replied, Of course it's to borrow young sect master's knife. Fatty Wong curiously said, Young sect master? But we don't know young sect master. How would he possibly help us? Will he even help us kill someone? Administrator Chun frowned as he stared at Fatty Wong in a resentful look, which meant that he failed to live up to his expectations. Since young you've been brainless, and even though you're so old now, why aren't you using your brains to think? Young sect master naturally won't help us for no reason, so we must create a reason for him to kill Yi Xiao. Fatty Wong was being scolded, but he wasn't angry at all. He only needed to think of sending that wretched lass who killed his silver wolf. His entire body's blood started to boil. Yes, Uncle, please continue. I'm listening. He hurriedly poured a cup of tea for Administrator Chun as he delivered it respectfully into his hands. Administrator Chun was satisfied with that as he continued. The matter is very simple. Young sect master had been outside dealing with some matters recently, and I heard that it was not smooth sailing. So he's been throwing his temper every day. No one dared to get into his bad books, as their consequences will be miserable. I heard that even his closest protector, M.O.E., had been locked up in the water jail. Fatty Wong screamed in astonishment. Even Protector M.O. had been locked into the water jail? Why is that so? What trouble have young sect master met with outside? Administrator Chin glowered at him. Who knows? Anyway, it is none of our concern. What's important in PW is that young sect master's temper is very bad now, and it just needs one ignition for it to light up. So, as long as that lass clashes onto him, that wretched lass would definitely die a horrendous death. Furthermore, she died in young sect master's hands, which is entirely justified. So no matter how outstanding of a talent she is, no one would pursue young sect master's responsibility, right? This way, they also won't find out that we're the ones masterminding this concert too. Right. Uncle, you're absolutely right. But what should we do to ensure that the Yi girl will definitely ruffle up young sect master? Administrator Chin replied, We only need to make some slight arrangements will do. You also know that all newly advanced outer disciples will be arranged to do some kind of factotum. Moreover, this matter is entirely handled by me. If they won't accept it, then they would not be able to obtain contribution points and cannot cultivate. So, tomorrow I just need to... Arrange Yi Shao to be responsible for tidying up young sect master's courtyard. Ah! Fatty Wong jumped up when he heard that. Uncle, have you gone silly? What kind of scheme is that? Isn't this a beautiful job? Young sect master's courtyard seldom has anyone living in it, so it's especially clean and doesn't require much effort in cleaning. Furthermore, I heard that those outer disciples who were responsible for cleaning in the past would receive pointers from the shadow guards, and later on some of them became inner disciples. Such beautiful task. Outer disciples are all fighting for it. Even I am not in turn for it. Administrator Chun gave another disapproving look which berated him for not living up to his expectations, as he pointed out a finger and poked Fatty Wong's head. Ugh, can you stop being so short-sighted? You also said that was in the past. Now young sect master's temper is really irritable. Furthermore, I heard others say that young sect master had a room in his courtyard that absolutely was out of bounds to anyone. Whoever accidentally intruded in that room will be executed on the spot. We don't need to tell that to the wretched lass will do. Young sect master will be back on the day after, so if he sees his secret room being touched, you can also listen on. When Fatty Wong heard that, no matter how stupid he was, he also came around it, as joy filled his eyes. Yes, if young sect master would see anyone entering his room which he disallowed from entering, being intruded by an outer disciple who was tasked to clean up, then he would absolutely fly into a rage. Yi Shao absolutely would be chopped into two-part by young sect master. The more Fatty Wong thought, the more exquisite he thought the plan was, as he kept prancing about in the room, as he began to rain all sorts of praises onto Administrator Chun. Uncle, you're just too smart. This borrowing knife scheme is simply perfect. This time Yi Shao is a goner, no matter how much innate talent she has. But in front of young sect master, no one is able to withstand a single blow at all. She's definitely dead. Ha. She's definitely a goner. Wretched slut, who asked you to ruffle with this Sir Fatty? This time round, just go to Hades and cry. Ha. On the second morning, Huang Yuli got up rather early. The night earlier, she had already gotten notification to report to Administrator Chen's courtyard, as he was going to officially arrange all sorts of factotum for the outer disciples today. Huang Yuli took her breakfast and headed off together with Su Qingwei and Yu Xinyang. When they walked to the courtyard, a few other newly advanced disciples from Celestial Light Academy were also preparing to set off, and when they saw Huang Yuli, all of them started to head over to greet her. Junior Sister Yi, have you rested well yesterday? Junior Sister Yi, it was all thanks to you yesterday. At least we don't need to be chased out. That's right, Junior Sister Yi, at least we don't need to count out to anyone, and that's already the biggest advantage. As for other disadvantageous parts, we just need to bear with it. Anyway, they don't dare to go overboard. After the conventional greetings, someone patted Huang Yueli's shoulder as she gave advice with a deep expression. Huang Yueli was totally puzzled when she heard that and asked curiously, "What do you mean by other disadvantageous parts? What did that mean? How come I don't understand you at all?" The person who said the only female student in the martial arts stage top 10, Su Jiaxing. Junior Sister Yi, we also got to know about this yesterday. That Fatty Wong yesterday was not only the grandnephew of Elder Wong, he is also the nephew of Administrator Chun. Administrator Chun is responsible for managing us, and the factotum, which we will be arranged to do from now on, will all be arranged by him personally. Huang Yuli blinked. I really couldn't tell that. Fatty Wong indeed has some backing. Su Jiaxing continued. Isn't that so? So, yesterday night, Fatty Wong had already sent someone over to scare us, saying that Administrator Chen wouldn't sit and do nothing about our evil deeds. So today, when arranging the factotums, he will definitely show us some colors. When Huang Yuli heard that, she frowned. This fellow, is there an end to this? Simply looking for death, or must I go and punch him one more round? Although she really wasn't willing to deal with rubbish like Fatty Wong, because this was simply too degrading, but even if it was one unremarkable mosquito which kept buzzing by her ears daily, that was also very irritating, all right? It was so irritating that it really made someone want to slap it to death. When Su Jiaxing heard that, she immediately became anxious and hurriedly persuaded, Sigh, junior sister Yi, you usually look like a prudent person, but ever since you entered Chi Deviation, why have you become so rash? Don't be rash to look for Fatty Wong. Do you hear me? Huang Yueli went into a blank. Why say that? Surely you all don't want to be allocated some disgusting factotum, right? You can also listen on. Su Jiaxing added, Of course we don't wish to, but you've already taken such a huge risk on our behalf, hurting Fatty Wong seriously. So I'm sure Administrator Chun and him definitely hates you to the core. If you were to go find trouble with them, won't you be walking right into their trap? Nothing should happen to you now, and you cannot let them have any chance to trap you. Huang Yueli asked hesitantly, But you all... Su Jiaxing immediately cut her off. There's nothing much for us to. Isn't it just slightly tougher factotum? Actually, the type of factotum is standardized. So no matter how overboard Administrator Chen goes, he will not be able to make us eat sh*t, merely just giving away the nicer tasks to others and let us work harder only. These are small matters, so we'll just treat it as part of self-training towards our cultivation. Huang Yueli still wanted to say something, but a few of them had already walked towards Administrator Chen's courtyard. Under the attention of others, they didn't dare to say anything much as they quietly lined up and walked in. Administrator Chen's courtyard was already filled with people. The outer disciple who were under the care of Administrator Chen's allocation of factotum was not only limited to the small bunch of those from Celestial Light Academy. There were many other outer disciples who were taken in from elsewhere, and there was a total of 100 over people, which filled the small courtyard fully. Administrator Chun kept everyone waiting for quite some time before he arrived late. He walked to the high stage in the middle of the courtyard as he cleared his throat. Everyone, firstly, congratulations to all of you for passing the various stages of selection and officially entering Celestial Light's sect to become outer disciples. Although you're only outer disciples, but based on the reputation of Celestial Light's sect as the #1 sect, I believe that in everyone else's eyes, you're already a dragon among the carps. But the first step after becoming an outer disciple, to have some achievement in the path of cultivation, you cannot afford to slack and must diligently cultivate. At the same time, you must understand and be grateful to the sect for their nurture, to pledge your loyalty to the sect, and complete the tasks which the sect had arranged for you. As an outer disciple, you actually aren't genuine Celestial Light Sect's disciples yet, and will need to complete factotum for the sect. Remember, the factotums which have been passed to you are all very important, and you're not allowed to pick and choose. Whatever you're allocated, you must try your best to complete it. Every time you complete a factotum, you will gain equivalent amount of contribution points, and these are something which could be used to exchange for cultivation's methods and resources in future, so you must cherish it. Saying that, Administrator Chun coughed lightly once more. All right, now I'm going to arrange factotum for all of you. Will those disciples whose names are being called come over to me to retrieve the token for your task? Number 1, Zhong Weifang. Your task is responsible for West Region Storeroom's administration and stock-taking to listen to the command from the storeroom administrator. Number 2. Next one is, from the start, there are only a few people who weren't from Celestial Light Academy, and the tasks they were allocated were pretty good. If there's not something to gain from it, then it would extremely idle. But very quickly, it was Celestial Light Academy's disciples' turn. Next, Yuan Ziyu. Your task is in charge of Eastern Zone's inner disciples' sword sparring training grounds and accompany them to train. The minute he said that, it caused waves of shocking gasps among the disciples who were present. Some of them started to discuss in whispers. That Yuan Ziyu, I heard he's #1 in Celestial Light Academy. It's heard that he has a high innate talent and is a moldable talent. Why is he being allocated to such a scamming task? You can also listen on. Right, to accompany them for training. Isn't this task a little too terrible? And to accompany inner disciples to train. An outer disciple like him over there, isn't he there just to be a sandbag for them? I think he'd probably be beaten up badly every day. So isn't this a scam or what? But I heard that Fatty Wong went over to extort protection fee from the Celestial Light Academy's courtyard. So make a guess what happened in the end. I heard about it too. It had said that they refused to pay the protection fee and even beat Fatty Wong up. This guts, isn't it a little too fat? Who doesn't know that Fatty Wong is the leader among the outer door? Furthermore, he's even Administrator Chen's nephew. I've heard that it's not only like that. Someone said that there's a powerful top expert among them, and that person killed Fatty Wong's Silver Wolf. Hearing that, everyone present drew in a mouthful of cold air. There's such a matter happening? No wonder Administrator Chen is treating them in this way. I think this Yuan Ziyu sent over to accompany them for training is not going to be a mere sandbag, as life would probably be in danger. The crowd's glare towards Yuan Ziyu contained some traces of sympathy. What others were discussing about, wouldn't Yuan Ziyu knew it for himself. But if he wanted to continue staying in Celestial Light Sect, then he absolutely cannot refuse such a request. Administrator Chen saw that he didn't said anything and continued to pressure. Yuan Ziyu, why aren't you coming to receive the task token? Are you dissatisfied with the task which I've allocated to you? I'm telling you, Celestial Light Sect is not for you to play here if you're not willing to do this small thing, and even wanted to pick the fat and juicy jobs but ignore the thin ones, then you might as well scram back to Sky Cloud City. Yuan Ziyu's expression turned even uglier still. In Sky Cloud City, he was held up towards the moon in both hands by the masses. So when had he ever suffered such humiliation before? However, after an intense battle in his heart, he still decided to endure. He came over because he wanted to pursue a higher realm in the cultivation path, and how would such small difficulty possibly defeat him? Yes, this disciple accepts. He received the task token and clenched it tightly as he turned around to leave. Fatty Wong was hiding in the dark, and when he saw his steady footsteps, he sneered in his heart. Good that you've accepted the task. By then, he'd find someone to thoroughly entertain this junior brother Yuan. But Yuan Ziyu wasn't his most hatred person, so Fatty Wong hid in his corner, not making any moves, waiting to see Huang Yueli get into trouble. Whereas Huang Yueli was actually watching Yuan Ziyu's departing figure, as a gloomy, cold glint flashed past her eyes. Fatty Wong and the others indeed didn't know how to repent, and just did whatever they wanted to. Did they thought Huang Yueli was someone who they could trifle with? They'd better not move the stone to crush it onto their own feet. Following that, the number of people who received the factotum tasks were getting more and more. Among them, all the Celestial Light Academy's disciples had received extremely dangerous and low-return factotums. Anyone with eyes could tell that Administrator Chen was aiming them. Celestial Light Academy's people were rather tough. No one came out to beg for mercy, and had all received the task token without a single grumble as they left. It was the other disciples below the stage who saw this scenario. They all intentionally evaded them, as though they contained some sort of virus on them, afraid of being infected. Right until the end, when there wasn't much people left, Administrator Chen then called out Huang Yueli's name. Next, Yi Xiao. Your task is to tidy up young sect master's residence and all the rooms and courtyard. When this sentence came out, all the crowd present were shocked, thinking that they have heard it wrongly. By the time they could react, the stage below was already bustling. You can also listen on. Earlier, when they heard those Celestial Light Academy's practitioners had their tasks allocated, one of them were unluckier than the other, as the tasks were more scamming than the previous one. Everyone had already guessed that the person who offended Fatty Wong the most was definitely Yi Xiao, who killed his Iron Claw Silver Wolf. The others' allocated tasks were already so lousy, so if it was Yi Xiao's turn, they wondered how miserable would it be. Many of them, after they had received their task tokens, they refused to leave, wanting to hear the answer personally. In the end, waiting for more than half a day, they received such an unexpected result. The task which she received in turn was not some tough task. Not only was it not tough, it was an uncanny, beautiful task. Although the task of cleaning up wasn't too high class, but that was to clean up in the young sect master's residence. Who was the young sect master? In Celestial Light Sect, although the position of sect master seemed to be the highest. But to those who understood Celestial Light sect clearly, Celestial Light sect's most revered position was not anyone else but Li Moying. It was only because he was Murong De's disciple and had maintained some sense of respect towards his own master. To be able to stay beside young sect master to do duties, even if it was just a cleaning factotum, that would be considered as another step advancing to the sky, and she was probably going to fly into riches pretty soon. If young sect master took an interest in her, it was even possible to become a direct disciple. And even if she wasn't able to enter young sect master's eye, then she would at least obtain young sect master Shadow Guard's pointers, which was also a good thing, since many of them were all direct disciples. Other than this, young sect master was so handsome, even if there wasn't any advantages, just based on the fact that she could look at young sect master from afar, that would be a factotum which numerous female disciples were willing to go ahead and snatch this opportunity. Momentarily, everyone's gazes towards Huang Yueli were mixed with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Especially those female disciples. When they looked at her, their eyes were practically breathing fire. Such a wonderful factotum. When would it be their turn? Hadn't she had a feud with Administrator Chun and Fatty Wong? Why did they arranged such a nice task for her? Who wouldn't want to stay beside young sect master? If they had better luck and young sect master had taken a fancy to them, allowing them to climb on his bed, then even as a concubine, that would be the most fortunate thing which happened to them. When Huang Yueli herself heard this, she was extremely astonished as she blinked her watery, huge eyes, unable to react instantly. Ugh, Administrator Chun, your meaning is for me to help Li, young sect master, clean up his room? A malicious glint flashed past his sinister eyes, but his face held a blossoming, smiling expression as he used his fingers to play around with a few strands of his beard on his lower jaw. Of course, you haven't heard me wrongly. Your factotum is to clean up young sect master's residence. You're a girl and you're meticulous, so I believe that you will definitely be able to do this factotum properly. This is the best task among this batch of factotums. If it wasn't for your outstanding innate talent, with a bright future, I wouldn't allocate this to you at all. Administrator Chun bore a tone which seemed as though he eagerly sought after people of worth and ability. If it was anyone else, they might think that he was really thinking of Huang Yueli's behalf. Don't you underestimate this task. It might be simple, but young sect master's demands are very high. You must maintain a high degree of cleanliness in every single room. Rest assured, as long as you do it well, you will win young sect master's favor. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli listened to Administrator Chun describing the task passionately as her brow started to furrow. She didn't need to think before she knew that the factotum which Administrator Chun allocated to her definitely has a problem. Perhaps there was some sort of scheming plot involved. Otherwise, even Yuan Ziyu and the rest were arranged such dangerous tasks. Why was she the only one who was given a beautiful task? Not only the others couldn't believe it, she wasn't going to believe it anyway. Only, she didn't know what these people were thinking of. Although Huang Yueli was skeptical, her hands had already stretched out to receive the task token. Thank you, Administrator Chun, for your care. This kind of factotum really isn't found anywhere easily. You really take good care of me. I will work really hard to make sure that young sect master is satisfied. No matter what Administrator Chun was thinking about, this task to her was totally advantageous for her, without a single disadvantage. It was simply like a cake falling right from the sky, dropping onto her head. She was worried about how to meet Li Moying, and in the end, Administrator Chun specially gave her a chance so that she could get closer to Li Moying openly. Such a good matter. How could she possibly push it away? So she must definitely hurry and grab it. As for what plot Administrator Chun and Fatty Wong were scheming, anyway, they didn't pose any threat to them. To her, they were just two clowns, so what could they possibly do to her? When she and Li Moying have reunited, then she naturally needn't be afraid of them any further. Huang Yueli was in a good mood, as her face couldn't help but reveal a smile. Administrator Chun watched her leaving with an at-ease look as he couldn't help but sneered in his heart. This wretched lass indeed hadn't noticed anything wrong, and thought that she had been allocated a beautiful task, even smiling so happily. Just let her smile since she could. It was just merely for these 2 days. When young sect master returns, she would immediately turn into a corpse. After Huang Yueli left, the remaining outer disciples broke out. Heavens, have I heard wrongly? Administrator Chen actually arranged such an easy and good factotum task for Yi Xiao. Oh, why? Wasn't she supposed to have a feud with Administrator Chen and the rest? Yes, this is too strange. Could it be that we've really misunderstood Administrator Chen? He doesn't set people up intentionally. But how about the earlier few, Yuan Ziyu and the rest? How do you explain theirs? Those accompanying to train jobs are simply too dangerous. Dangerous? It depends on how you read it. Perhaps Administrator Chen just wanted to train them? Otherwise, to help young sect master Sai, how would such a factotum even be Yi Zhao's turn? The crowd were chattering nonstop, and all of them were envious of Huang Yueli's luck. Fatty Wang was hiding in one corner listening, and he almost wanted to jump out and tell everyone that that little slut was going to be dead soon. Furthermore, this was the consequence of offending him, Fatty Wang. But he recalled Administrator Chen's reminder that before Huang Yueli reported to Li Moying's residence, this matter absolutely cannot be revealed, so Fatty Wang tried his hardest to control his mouth. Just let you continue to be happy for these 2 more days. In the early afternoon, everyone's tasks had all been allocated. According to Celestial Light Sect's regulations, in the late afternoon, everyone will have to report to the respective factotum administrators which they were allocated to. Huang Yueli was extremely excited as she casually ate a little lunch and ran over to report. But unfortunately, she had not met the person whom she wanted to meet. Li Moying's housekeeper was originally Mo Chi, but Mo Chi had been chased out to join the search party. You can also listen on. So the person who was currently in charge of handing Li Moying's residence's factotum was an elderly administrator whom Celestial Light Sect had temporarily arranged. This administrator happened to be Elder Wang's relative, so he's considered to be Fatty Wang's great-granduncle. Fatty Wang shoved a huge sum of spirit stones to him so that he would help to scam Huang Yueli. This one was really huge. In order for Fatty Wang to seek revenge for his Iron Claw Silver Wolf, he had indeed dug out all his treasures. Administrator Wang was tempted by the large sum of money, and recalling that Fatty Wang was their own relative, plus the matter that he was tasked to do was as easy as lifting a finger, so Administrator only took a moment to consider before agreeing to it. Huang Yueli walked up to Administrator Wang and handed the task token to him, explaining her presence. Administrator Wang opened his dazed eyes as he casted her a sideways glance. I know, you're the new cleaning factotum. This old man will first say the ugly words. Although this factotum is a beautiful task, but if you must do it well. Young sect master especially loves a clean environment and hates things which are disorderly. You must be especially meticulous to ensure that your cleaning doesn't miss any corner. Otherwise, if young sect master were to blame you, no one will be able to help. Have you heard me clearly? He especially emphasized not missing any corner, which implied that Huang Yueli had to enter every single room to clean properly. Huang Yueli felt that his tone was weird, but didn't give it much thought as she just obediently nodded her head. Li Moying's residence. She naturally must clean it properly. Furthermore, that man indeed loved a clean environment, sometimes to the point of being misophobic. But Huang Yueli wasn't afraid of him blaming her, because from her past life, no matter how much that man was dissatisfied, he hadn't dared to say her, and would only start cleaning up by himself, as well as to service eldest Miss Huang. Even when in Celestial Light Academy, when she and Li Moying were cohabiting, it was Li Moying who made the bed, while she was having breakfast by the side. Administrator Wang saw her non-objecting expression as he secretly laughed in his herd. This lady was indeed dumb, to be scammed till this extent, and still not realizing anything, yet showing such an excited look. But, after careful thoughts, that was understandable, After all, she was going to help out young sect master. A female disciple able to stay by young sect master's side. How much rationality could she preserve? That could only be because of young sect master's amazing charm. So many young ladies had already thrown themselves at him. Even eldest Miss Murong was no exception. The ordinary young lady in front of him was going to be smitten to confusion. Administrator Wang didn't have any interest in someone who was about to die, so he simply added a few sentences of concern before letting her off to tidy up Li Moying's courtyard. Huang Yueli took a mop and cleaning cloth as she lifted a bucket and walked into Li Moying's courtyard. This was the place where the man she liked lived, so she was naturally filled with curiosity as she kept glancing around. Li Moying's likes in this lifetime seemed not much different from her previous life. The courtyard wasn't very big, and from the outside it looked very plain, but the minute one walked in, it was a totally different world. The courtyard was elaborately laid with 7th tier and above upper-grade materials. Extremely lavish, but Huang Yueli knew that this man's motive wasn't to flaunt his fortune, but to ensure that his residence was safe and comfortable while fortified. Li Moying's residence originally was located at the rear mountain of Celestial Light Sect Gathering Point, and he had set up various 8th-tier spirit gathering arrays. So the entire mountain artery's profound qi had continuously flowed and gathered towards his courtyard. You can also listen on. The intensity of the profound qi was at least 3 times as compared to outside. This absolutely was the best feng shui treasure place for going into closed-door cultivation. Not only that, Li Moying's courtyard looked like there wasn't any defense mechanism, as his entrance had a few guards. But in the eyes of a professional high-leveled armament master like Huang Yueli, this courtyard's surrounding mechanisms were so concentrated that no one had ever heard of before. Even if she were to personally ask to set this up, it would take a huge amount of effort. If some blind, senseless person were to intrude in on purpose, or had some ulterior motive, they would absolutely not be able to get away with it. On the contrary, that person would die a horrendous death. Even if Li Moying was not in the sect, no one could casually enter his turf. Having this thought, Huang Yueli felt her luck wasn't too bad after all. Right after she took on this ineffable factotum, she was able to enter the inner chamber right away. Huang Yueli's mood was great, as she started humming a tune and kept looking around. It wasn't as though she had the intentions to do the factotum properly. So, when she was working, she was extremely slack. Most of the time, she just casually swiped the tablecloth across the surfaces, then pondered on the fact that when she met Li Moying tomorrow, how would she bring up the topic of their previous lives? Actually, the last time when she heard Li Moying talk in his sleep, she was still dubious about Li Moying's identity and couldn't confirm. But she thought a lot during this period of time. The more she thought carefully, the more she felt Li Moying was indeed Mu Chengying, because the similarities between the both of them was simply too high. Furthermore, recently she had heard some news that Soaring Heavens Continent's #1 top expert, Blue Profound Sect's Sect Master Mu, had went into closed-door cultivation in the same year which she passed on, and he had not been out for the past 14 years. There is also a rumor that after Mu Chengying battled the 7 Sacred Lands top experts in northern ice fields, breaking the prohibition against taking lives, he himself was severely injured, so he went into rigid, closed cultivation. After so many years, he had not been out since, so perhaps he might have already died inside. Not only the rumors were so, even those large sects had started to provoke Blue Profound Sect, but not once had Mu Chengying came out to respond, so that further certified the others' guesses. Huang Yueli indistinctly felt that something was not right with Li Moying. In the past, he had never gone into closed-door cultivation for such a long period of time. As he was a thunder-attributed practitioner, so normally he would need to energize his potential in the middle of battles before HS could advance, so just based on closed-door cultivation won't do any good. But after finding out about Li Moying's matters, she wasn't willing to accept this deduction subconsciously and refused to think about the possibility of something happening to Mu Chengying. But now, since she started to doubt Li Moying's identity, then linking all the cause and effects together, she got more and more certain that her guess was correct. I wonder what happened to Mu Chungying after I self-exploded. But he seemed to have totally lost his memories, so probably he himself doesn't even know. Looks like I can only slowly check. After Huang Yueli went through one round, on seeing that the day was not young anymore, she headed back to the outer disciples' residence. Su Qingwei had already returned to her room. She was considered lucky, as she didn't make any move while arguing with Fatty Wang. So the factotum which she was allocated wasn't that bad at all, just responsible for the West Mountains medicinal farm to water the herbs and get rid of weeds. Although taking care of such a large medicinal farm was extremely tiring, but at least there wasn't any danger. Seeing Huang Yueli's return, she immediately rushed up and putting on her gossip cap, she asked, "Sisterly, how was it? Is young sect master's courtyard very pretty?" You can also listen on. Huang Yueli was very delighted, but the minute she saw Su Qingyue's anticipated expression, she bashfully raised her chin as she coughed lightly. Still all right." Su Qingyue smiled. "How could it be just all right? It's rumored that young sect master's residence is the best spot in the entire Celestial Light sect. Taking a short walk to the back for around 1/4 of an hour would be the Reflection Sword Cliff, which is especially suitable for cultivation. Furthermore, the rear mountain scenery is picturesque, which is the best place for lovers to talk sweet nothings to each other. But unfortunately, young sect master will only be back tomorrow. Otherwise, you probably won't be back here to sleep tonight." Huang Yueli's thoughts started to run amok as her face flushed red. By the time she regained her senses, she saw Su Qingyue with a teasing smile hanging on her face. To hide her own embarrassment, she intentionally gave Su Qingyue a fierce stare as she said, "Stop talking nonsense. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. Have you forgotten? Li Moying had a huge fight with me, so he left Celestial Light Academy, which is why many people are saying I was ditched by him. Perhaps he's still angry." Hearing that, Su Qingyue asked curiously, "That's right, I haven't asked you. Why did you quarrel with young sect master? And it was such a fierce argument, to the point of almost separating?" About this, Huang Yueli apparently couldn't tell the truth, so she just casually found a reason to skimp over it. "Anyway, there's a friend who went over to Celestial Light Academy to look for me some time ago, a male. After that, Li Moying misunderstood. This wasn't considered a lie. Anyway, that was one part of the reason why they parted ways, although it was just a minor, very minor part of it." Su Qingyue's eyes opened wide like full moons as she said in astonishment, "What? You mean, young sect master had seen you meeting your illicit lover, so he was jealous then quarreled with you?" Huang Yueli replied, unhappily, "What meeting illicit lover? I and Liu, have a pure friendship. No, it's actually not even friendship, just mere acquaintance. As for jealous, right, he's always been like that." Saying that, previous lives, Mu Chungying also especially loved to be jealous. Any male creature that got close to her within 100 meters would be slashed by his eye sword hundreds of times, from 3-year-old to 300-year-old. None were spared. Huang Yueli bashfully expressed her discontent towards Li Moying's jealousy. But at the same time, she intentionally left out the fact that her jealousy wasn't any better. Su Qingyue was filled with envy. Really hard to imagine that such a cool and stern man like young sect master would be filled with jealousy. He must really love you dearly. Did you know that after you disappeared, he almost flipped the academy upside down completely? So many people sympathized with young sect master. Rest assured, if young sect master knew that you were back, he'd definitely be very happy. So the two of you will be able to reunite smoothly tomorrow. Huang Yueli actually wasn't very certain of that, because the truth was very different from what Su Qingyue understood. Regarding Li Moying's previous life secret, he himself couldn't recall it, so she wasn't sure if he would believe in her words. Would he felt that she was playing trick on him? After all, the one who said she hated him, and then now the one who said she liked him, was her. If their roles were reversed, she would probably feel that the other party was temperamental, simply toying around with her feelings. Would Li Moying not believe her? Thinking of this, Huang Yueli started to get apprehensive. Knock, knock, knock. Just at this moment, a knocking sound resounded. You can also listen on. It was so late already. Who would come looking for them at this hour? Huang Yueli and Su Qingwei exchanged glances as they cried out, "Come in." The room door was pushed open, and the person who walked in was actually Su Jiaxing. As the top 10 female student in martial arts stage, she was also a famous person in the academy, but Huang Yueli and Su Qingwei didn't have much dealings with her before. It was only during this early afternoon, when they were being allocated factotums, Su Jiaxing spoke a few words to them. Huang Yueli curiously asked, "Senior Sister Su, why have you come? Please do take a seat inside." Su Jiaxing bore a terrified expression and refused to sit, but took a huge stride towards her as she spoke anxiously. "Junior Sister Yi, you're still so carefree, so happy. Do you know that you've been schemed today?" Su Qingwei was shocked. "Really? Why do you say that? Someone is scheming against Junior Sister Yi?" But Huang Yueli didn't take it to heart as she smiled, saying, "It's very normal for someone to scheme against me. Senior Sister Su, don't be overly anxious. Come, sit down and talk slowly. I have just brewed a pot of tea." You still have the mood to drink tea?" Su Jiaxing was so anxious that her heart was jumping out of her mouth. "The beautiful task you received today, to clean up young sect master's courtyard. Are you especially happy about it? But why didn't you consider the fact that, after beating up Fatty Wong to that state, why would Administrator Chen help you, instead of scheming against you? I'm telling you, there's a huge plot behind all this." "Plot? What plot?" Huang Yueli blinked as she asked curiously. Actually, she had indeed been puzzled for an entire day regarding what Administrator Chen was plotting behind her back. But she thought for an entire day and still couldn't figure out what they were plotting, which could cause any threat to her. On hearing that, Su Jiaxing thought that she had finally realized the seriousness of the matter as she hurried on. "Today I came back slightly later, and on my way back, I heard someone talking in a corner. I thought the voice sounded familiar, so I stopped to eavesdrop a little more. Then I discovered that the person talking was actually Fatty Wong and a friend of his. They were discussing how to deal with you." Huang Yueli's interest was perked as she smiled. "What did he say?" Su Jiaxing stared at her. Jeter Sister Yi, can you stop smiling? This isn't funny at all." Fatty Wong's friend asked him. "Administrator Chen actually could allocate factotums for young sect master's courtyard. Such a great task. Why didn't he give it to him, but to allocate it to you as foe instead?" Fatty Wong then started bursting out into laughter, saying, "You think it's a beautiful task? Actually, this is something which he and the administrator had planned." It was said that ever since young sect master went to Celestial Light Academy, his mood took a huge change, and those staying by his side were simply like accompanying a tiger instead of a gentleman, faulted at every turn. Even his most pampered shadow guard M.O., he had been locked up in the water jail. Many of young sect master courtyard servants had offended him while he was fuming, and all been dealt with seriously. There were several of them who had made him so angry that they were executed on the spot. When Huang Yueli heard that, she couldn't help but wipe the sweat off her forehead. Surely it cannot be so, right? Angry to such a state. Things are indeed a little bad. Tomorrow when Li Moying saw her, would he be so agitated that his illness acted up? Su Jiaxing saw her pale look and misunderstood, thinking that she was finally afraid as she continued. Fatty Wong didn't seem like he knew what happened to young sect master, but as Celestial Light Academy students, it's not hard to guess. It must be because of Bairuoli's disappearance. You can also listen on. When Huang Yueli heard that this topic reverted back to her, she could only cough dryly. "Right, I also feel the same way. Young sect master is really sentimental. What dog sh*t luck did Bairuoli ran into to be able to make young sect master linger over her for so long? Furthermore, although this doesn't sound nice, but I feel that Junior Sister Bai probably is a goner." Huang Yueli didn't felt anything, but Su Qingwei was afraid that she was upset, so she jumped up. "What are you saying? Junior Sister Li will be fine. Her innate talent's so high. Her potential exceeds us by a lot. How could she possibly be in trouble?" Su Jiaxing added, "I know you and Junior Sister Bai's relationship is very food, but surely we cannot cheat ourselves, right? It was rumored that the person pursuing her is Vice Principal Ling. He is a 7th-stage rel practitioner. Won't killing her just be as easy as lifting a finger? Moreover, young sect master sent so many people to search for her, and yet they haven't found her yet. If she was alive, she would definitely try to find a way to contact young sect master, right? Su Qinghua wanted to add something more, but was held back by Huang Yueli from behind. Huang Yueli gave her a keep calm, don't get impatient expression as she turned around smiling. What senior sister said makes sense. Su Jiaxing sighed again. Anyway, it's a pity for junior sister Bai. But after something happened to her, young sect master is definitely in a thunderous mood. So if you were to continue staying around young sect master doing stuff, it's simply too dangerous, not knowing when you'll become his punching bag. Furthermore, from Fatty Wang's meaning, they will intentionally go stir up trouble in front of young sect master. You don't know the inner zone's interpersonal relationship in Celestial Light Sect, so sooner or later, you'd commit some offenses. Junior Sister Yi, yesterday you stood up at the crucial moment and saved everyone. I'm very grateful to you. So this time I sincerely give you a piece of advice. The water on young sect master's side is too deep. You can't go in, and it's best that you don't. Go change to another factotum, even though it's slightly tougher, but it's much better than throwing away your life. When Huang Yueli heard that, she didn't felt that there was anything to be worried about, but as her curiosity was piqued, her mood started to turn for the better. She knew that Su Jiaxing came out of kindness, so she didn't rebuke her and only replied, Senior sister, thank you. I will consider this carefully. Su Jiaxing saw her calm and composed look and knew that her words had not reached her heart. The opportunities around young sect master was indeed much more, and it was normal for Yi Zhao's refusal to leave, but it was a waste for such a talented young lady. There was nothing much she could say, anything, so she only heaved a long sigh as she left. After Su Jiaxing left, Huang Yueli and Su Qinghua exchanged glances, as they both felt it was slightly funny. Su Qinghua said, I totally couldn't tell that Su Jiaxing was actually a kind-hearted person. Usually in the academy, I felt that she was an aloof person. Huang Yueli laughed. Aloof or not, that would depend on the environment and the other party. Now, in Celestial Light Sect, she belongs to the weaker group, whereas my potential is much stronger than hers. So she would naturally find a chance to deepen the relationship with me. All right, we better get some rest. Tomorrow, I have an important matter to deal with. The night went past just like that. When Huang Yueli woke up early in the morning, she wasn't able to go to Li Moying's courtyard immediately, because Administrator Chun had sent a message early in the morning, saying that it was an important day when young sect master returned to the sect. All the newly ascended outer disciples had to line up at the front of Celestial Light Sect's front mountain door to receive him. On hearing this, many of the outer disciples were excited. You can also listen on. Young sect Master Li Moying was South Sky region's #1 genius. His name was renowned and absolutely not merely a false reputation. He was the person whom all the disciples in Celestial Light Sect admired. Especially for those Celestial Light Academy students, they had unknowingly spent several months together with Li Moying in the academy, and personally witnessed his extraordinary powerful ability, so their admiration towards him was much more than others. From early morning, a large group of outer disciples had on Administrator Cheng's request, dressed in the Celestial Light uniform robe, lines up neatly into different groups as they waited at the mountain door entrance. Huang Yueli was mixed among these people and thought it was just a short wait, but in the end, they waited and waited all the way till mid-afternoon, but had not seen any traces of Li Moying. Her legs were aching from the standing, and she gloomily ridiculed. Li Moying really puts on some airs. When is he going to arrive? He actually made everyone wait for such a long. Shut up. Huang Yueli suppressed her voice as she spoke to Su Qinghua, but unknowing when, the outer disciples behind her heard what she said. You're merely a newly joined outer disciple. How dare you be so disrespectful towards young sect master? Do you know how talented young sect master is and how powerful he is? An exceptional genius like him should be sought after by everyone. He's a role model whom we should learn from. I'm willing to stand here to wait for his arrival, to be able to welcome young sect master. It's our glory. If you don't want to come, you can go back. There are plenty of other people who wishes to come. This disciple spoke with justice, as it gave Huang Yueli a shock. She instantly shut her mouth, not daring to say anything more, in case anyone else heard it and gave her another lecture. She had not expected Li Moying to be so popular and adored in Celestial Light sect. These outer disciples were simply blindly admiring him. Li Moying indeed was a genius, very powerful, but not as exaggerated as what that person had said. Su Qingyue saw her beaten look, as she couldn't take it, and laughed secretly. Huang Yueli felt like she was going to vomit out blood. What was this? She couldn't even ridicule her own man. It was close to 11:15 when Li Moying finally came running late. His flying ship descended in front of Celestial Light sect's mountain entrance, causing everyone to compete for his attention. Young sect masters finally arrived. Hurry, 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 move aside. I gotta take a close look. It's rumored that young sect master is exceptionally good looking. None was comparable. South Sky region's #1 handsome male. I gotta take a clear look. So many young ladies were squeezing forward agitatedly, worried that they weren't able to see clearly. As the flying ship descended, Huang Yueli's heart started thumping hard. Even though she had met Li Moying countless times, but this was the first time in her 2 lifetimes to admit that she liked him. So, this was also her first time welcoming the person she liked. This kind of feeling, wow, Sister Li, your face is ref. Su Qinghua laughed. Huang Yueli's embarrassment turned into anger. Shut up. Li Moying's figure appeared on the empty land in front of the mountain entrance. He was still dressed in a dark robe with gold trimming, which accented his jade-like complexion. His handsome features and perfectly sculpted contours, without any flaw, an exquisite piece of work with great care. He slowly walked towards the mountain entrance. That cold, proud, almighty presence was unleashed as he moved. Even though he was gifted with such suave looks, from certain angles, he looked much prettier than a young lady. But everyone could distinctly felt the superiority presence which was emitting from his bones. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli's eyes opened wide, as it was fixated onto him without blinking, feeling that she was forgetting about how to breathe. She discovered that Li Moying seemed to become better looking. Furthermore, he seemed to become more and more like Mu Chengying. This kind of similarly was not only in terms of looks, but in terms of the presence, possibly due to his increasing age, which made his elegant contours gradually turn rigid, adding a matured man's look. At this moment, the front mountain was totally silent, and it was until Li Moying was about to pass by when Administrator Chun reminded from the back, "Hey, what are you in a daze for? Didn't I ask you to welcome young sect master back to the sect?" All of them were rudely poked awake from their beautiful dream as they urgently cried out loudly, "Welcome young sect master." But Li Moying was still expressionless, as though he hadn't heard anything at all as he continued trudging forward. Huang Yueli almost cried out to him, but at the last moment, she recalled that she was in front of Celestial Light sect's entrance, and there were too many people here, so it wasn't suitable as a place for talking. After Li Moying walked further away, the young ladies in line started to get excited. "Wow, young sect master is really good looking." The moment when he walked over, I felt that I was about to suffocate. His name indeed isn't in vain. Young sect master's presence is really strong. He's only 20 years old and already at 7th stage realm. This kind of potential simply surpassed everyone's imagination. That's right, he's so handsome and so powerful. Whoever marries young sect master is really too fortunate. Even if you ask me to become young sect master's concubine, I'm willing. Okay, just based on you. Who is young sect master? He has plenty of maids who can warm up his bed, and there are plenty of large sex young missies who would automatically offer themselves. Wish for your turn. Furthermore, young sect master seems to be getting engaged with sect master's eldest young Miss Morong Fei. What? How could that be possible? Hearing this gossip, several of them started shrieking loudly, and they were all Celestial Light Academy students. They had personally witnessed Li Moying and Huang Yueli's unrestrained, endearing love for each other in every single corner of the academy. Later on, Huang Yueli's disappearance made Li Moying super anxious, which was what many had seen as well. But now the people from Celestial Light Sect actually said that Li Moying was going to get engaged to Morong Fei. But when he was in the academy, young sect master obviously said that junior sister Bai was his fiancée. The person who started talking about the gossip was a young lady with a goose egg-shaped face, and she was already in her 3rd year as an outer disciple. Earlier, she had merely said this casually, but she had not expected so many people to stare at her, making her feel tensed immediately. What? Have I said anything wrong? This rumor, the entire sect knows about it? Young sect master and eldest young miss were childhood friends, and sect master had always wished for both of them to get married, whereas eldest young miss had always admired young sect master, but he had always had his mind on cultivation, with no feelings put onto. When Huang Yueli heard that, she wasn't angry, but the corners of her mouth started to twitch. Li Moying always had his mind on cultivation, with no feelings on asterisk, 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 asterisk. Apologies, she couldn't tell that at all. She could only see that when Li Moying's beastly traits acted up, he really didn't seem like a human. That goose egg-shaped young lady continued, but this time young sect master went out on a training experience and actually brought eldest young miss along. Both of them even sat on the same flying ship back. Looks like their relationship had taken a huge step forward. So, everyone said this round, their wedding bells should be nearing. You can also listen on. When Huang Yueli heard that, her expression turned slightly ugly. Great, it seemed that when she wasn't around, Li Moying actually flirted around. Su Qingyue was secretly looking at her expression as she whispered, "Why would young sect master bring Morong Fei along to train? I think these are all rumors only, so don't be angry." Huang Yueli replied, "I'm not angry. Of course I know it's fake." Although she said that, but she still felt a sour feeling. So no matter what, she still felt upset over it. Su Qingyue was scared witless, not knowing what to say, so she hid by one corner, not daring to open her mouth. Unfortunately, at this moment, Morong Fei appeared at the front mountain entrance. She was dressed in a flowy yellow satin long dress, laced with chiffon, with delicate makeup as she put in extra effort in dressing up, taking elegant steps, heading towards Li Moying. "Eldest senior brother, you're finally back." Morong Fei's voice was soft and sticky, gentle and soft, making one's bones turn flaky from hearing it. Whoa, eldest young miss is just so pretty, and her voice is so melodious. It's no wonder young sect master is tempted by her. Sigh, indeed, when people complete with each other, it will only infuriate one to death. Eldest Miss Morong's background and innate talent are extremely outstanding. So, she's that compatible with young sect master. As for us, we better stop daydreaming. Huang Yueli was so angry that she clenched her teeth as her eyes stared intently on Li Moying and Morong Fei's actions. Morong Fei walked in front and leaned against Li Moying's direction, attempting to stretch out her hand to hold onto his arm. But Li Moying seemed as though she didn't see him, as he moved aside directly, making Morong Fei pounced on an empty space, and losing her balance, she almost fell flat on her face. Seeing that, Huang Yueli then humphed. "At least you know your limits. Didn't try to get fresh with another woman behind my back." Morong Fei had once again been rejected by Li Moying, and she was feeling extremely vexed, but didn't dare to fly into a rage with him. She bit on her lips, using a tenderly soft gaze, looking upwards at Li Moying, attempting to use her eyes to touch him. But Li Moying didn't even bother to look sideways. In actual felt, not only did he not felt any tenderness or feel touched, instead he felt extremely irritated. If it wasn't for the fact that Morong Fei was sect master's daughter, he would have sent her flying with a slap long ago. All he had on his mind was his missing Lear and originally he was already very frustrated. In the end, a housefly kept buzzing around him, so how would it not make him even angrier? Just as Li Moying was about to act up, Murong Fei seemed to have noticed something as she didn't dare to be rash as she obediently stood there, opening her mouth. Eldest senior brother, I'm here on behalf of my father to invite you. My father says he has an important matter to discuss with you, so when you return to the sect, to invite you over to his residence. Li Moying nodded his head. All right. He thought for a moment and said, forget it. I will go with you to Master's place right now. Murong Fei was overjoyed as she replied, great, eldest senior brother, then please come along with me. Normally, even if it was her father who invited Li Moying, he would require repeated urging before he went. Today, he actually went over immediately. Could it be that it was really because of her personal invite? Eldest senior brother really had given up on that dead wretched lass and prepared to consider being together with her? Murong Fei didn't know that Li Moying totally didn't notice her, but merely thought that tonight was a full moon's night, so his illness would probably act up any time now. After he recovered, he would still need to continue searching for Lier, so he couldn't afford to waste any time. You can also listen on. So, it'd be best to take this opportunity to quickly deal with Murong Da. By the time Li Moying and Murong Fei had exchanged their last words, they had already walked quite far away, so those spectators at the entrance weren't able to hear it clearly. Everyone only saw Murong Fei and Li Moying exchanging several words, and subsequently, Li Moying left along with her. Looks like the rumors are true. Eldest young Miss personally came over to receive young Sect Master, and young Sect Master left along with her immediately. Are they going on a date? Very likely. After all, we heard that young Sect Master had gone out for an entire month to experience training. As the saying goes, absence makes the heart fonder. I really envy eldest young Miss. This is called the perfect match, an ideal combination. No, impossible. Young Sect Master already has a fiancé. Furthermore, she's not the eldest young Miss Murong who you all are talking about. Just as everyone were discussing in envy, suddenly, a discord voice butted in. Huang Yue turned her head to take a look and discovered the person talking was Yuan Ziyu. The expression on his face was slightly stiff and his tone wasn't good. When young Sect Master was in our Celestial Light Academy, he was already together with a junior sister. And because that junior sister went missing, he was searching everywhere anxiously for her. This just happened 2 months ago, so there's no way young Sect Master would have a change of heart so soon. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and by the time his words were absorbed into his brain, they couldn't help but started to laugh out. This junior brother here, what you say is really interesting. Young Sect Master likes a junior sister from your academy? How is that possible? That's right. The number of women who likes young Sect Master are just too much. Those who could get close to him are usually some daughter of some large sect. There are plenty of ladies with excellent innate talent and peerless beauty, so why would he be interested in any ordinary young lady? It must be that lady who is bragging outside on her own, spoiling young Sect Master's reputation. That's right. The number of women who wants to stick to young Sect Master are plentiful. She won't be able to get her way. Yuan Ziyu's righteous words were in exchange for the crowd's ridicule. He was so infuriated that his face flushed red as he contended on strong grounds. He treated Li Moying as his idol, but in the end, his idol was slandered to the extent of being a face-changing scum. So how could he stand this? But unfortunately, no one believed in his words. Huang Yue shook her head silently, as she was very clear on what the lady's way of thinking. Murong Fei was Sect Master's daughter, so her status was much higher than theirs. So, if she became Li Moying's fiancée, then could at least comfort themselves that Li Moying had married Murong Fei because of her status. But if Li Moying were to marry an ordinary student whose status just worse off than theirs, then that was something which they absolutely could not accept. Huang Yue was in a trance from listening when suddenly she felt a pat on her shoulder from behind. Yi Xiao, why are you still here in a daze? A voice snapped right from her back, giving her a shock. "Who's that?" She hurriedly turned her head back. Administrator Chun was standing right behind her. As his expression was rather ugly, and upon seeing her turn back, he immediately showered his verbal abuse at her. "I say, what time is it already? You're still here lazing around. Young sect master has already entered the sect. What are you still looking at here? Still not hurrying up to go young sect master's courtyard to clean up one more round? Tonight, young sect master will be staying in his courtyard, and if he discovered the room is messy and dirty, if he wants to blame us, who will be able to take up this responsibility?" You can also listen on. Huang Yueli knew that Administrator Chun was intentionally picking up a fight as her face instantly sunk. But the minute she thought that she was about to meet Li Moying, she didn't have the time to bother about him, so she might as well just nod her head. "Administrator Chun, it indeed is my negligence. I will go to young sect master's courtyard right now. I guarantee that I will tidy up nearly, making young sect master satisfied." Administrator Chin gave a cold harumph as he said, "You're already so passive and slack. How can I believe that you will work properly? Follow me. I'll send you there personally and supervise you, so don't even think of skiving." Saying that, he seemed as though he was really afraid of Huang Yueli running away, as he followed closely with her. Huang Yueli was rather speechless. Even if Administrator Chen wanted to chase her away, she would beg to stay all right. He was actually afraid that she might slip away. But since Administrator Chen was really so enthusiastic, then it indeed proved that he was plotting something. Yesterday, Su Jiaxing wasn't wrong in saying that. But although that was that, she still followed Administrator Chen all the way till Li Moying's courtyard's entrance. Administrator Chen then stopped his footsteps as he said, "All right, not everyone can enter young sect master's courtyard, so I won't be going in. Remember properly what I said earlier. Tidy up each and every room carefully, not forgetting any corner. Do you understand?" "Understand." Huang Yueli nodded. Administrator Chun then gave a slight smile. "All right, hurry up and go in. Don't delay young sect master's rest time. Remember to do your work properly. I will be watching you." All Huang Yueli had on her mind was to meet Li Moying, so she couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Administrator Chun, so she casually nodded and turned to head into the door. Administrator Chen saw that she really lifted a cleaning cloth and pail in, as he couldn't help but started laughing out loud. Fatty Wong, whose face was covered in scars, suddenly popped out from the side of the bushes. "Uncle, we've succeeded, right? Has that wretched lass really gone in? She will go and tidy up that secret room, right?" Administrator Chen fiddled with his beard as he gave a slight smile. "I've specially instructed her to clean every single room, so she will definitely do as told. Earlier, I saw that look in her eyes when she was there welcoming young sect master. It's exactly the same as those love-struck lasses, hoping to swallow him in one mouth. She was especially worried that young sect master would be dissatisfied, so she will try her hardest to make sure she does her work properly. So, she will definitely tidy up that room." Fatty Wong replied in a sour tone, "Why are women all so superficial? Only know how to like those handsome ones, and those with strong abilities. No matter how incredible young sect master is, he would not take interest in them young lasses. Why is it that every single one of them, after they met HM, seemed as though they had taken a love potion?" Administrator Chin said, "What does that have to do with you? Anyway, the greatest achievement is to exact your revenge this time." Fatty Wong immediately casted aside all other thoughts as he asked worryingly, "But will young sect master really kill her? If young sect master finds out that we're the masterminds behind, then..." Administrator Chin said, "This you don't have to worry. Didn't you see that Protector Mo, you have already been sent to the water prison? Would this lass's treatment be better than Mo? Just be totally assured. We only need to come and watch the show early tomorrow morning. Perhaps, tomorrow morning, her corpse would be thrown out by young sect master shadow guards. No matter what, she would be beaten up badly, and her meridians and profound energy would be crippled." The minute Fatty Wong thought of this, he started to get excited. "That's great. I'm going to bury her as a funerary object for my silver wolf. You can also listen on. The minute Huang Yule entered Li Moying's courtyard, she bumped into Mo Chi head-on. As Li Moying's shadow guard and housekeeper, after Mo Chi returned to the sect with Li Moying, the first thing he did was to return to the courtyard to arrange the household matters. The minute he entered the door, Mo Chi felt something was amiss, as though someone had entered this courtyard. Moreover, the person in charge of cleaning was not very responsible. He had obviously repeatedly requested before he left that the items in the house should not be moved, but the person who cleaned up had casually misplaced the items everywhere. Who on earth was the unreliable person who had done such a thing? If young sect master were to see this, that person would be in deep sh*t. Mo Chi was just feeling angry over this, as he couldn't wait to grab that irresponsible factotum for a beating. In the end, when he turned around, he saw a 16 to 17-year-old young lady standing behind his back. You're the factotum who's responsible for tidying the courtyard? How do you even work? Are the things in this house something which you can casually touch? I'm telling you, if you're not putting your heart into doing this, if you infuriate young sect master, that would be a consequence which you cannot afford. Mo Chi was infuriated, so when he saw her, he didn't even wait for her explanation when he started berating. He thought that his stern and severe look would made that ordinary-looking outer female disciple scared out of her wits. In the end, when that young lady saw him, she only gave him a lazy smile as she waved to him. Mo Chi, we haven't met for quite some time. Mo Chi was stunned for a moment, as he immediately frowned. You know me? As Li Moying's shadow guard, his status in Celestial Light sect was not low, and when outer disciples saw him, they revered him extremely, so no one dared to speak to him like this. Furthermore, this young lass's tone and the manner of her actions looked extremely familiar. But Mo Chi thought for quite some time, and still couldn't recall where he had seen her before. Seeing Mo with a puzzled look, Huang Yule blinked her eyes as she suddenly cried out in astonishment. Ah, right, I forgot to wash away my disguise. No wonder you couldn't recognize me. Hurry! Does Li Moying have any medicine to cleanse of disguises? Quickly bring it out for me. I don't want to use this ugly look to meet him. Mo Chi was even more puzzled by her words. Just as he was in a daze, Huang Yule suddenly recalled to herself. Right, yesterday when I came to tidy up, I saw some in that medical room. I'll go get it myself. Saying that, she jumped up and ran over to the room by the side. Mo Chi then regained his senses. As his expression changed, he hurriedly chased up to her. What are you doing? How dare you barge around by yourself? Do you know what place this is? So gutsy, if you were to accidentally trigger any mechanism, you will lose your life. Mo Chi ran over to the medical room entrance and saw Huang Yule putting her hand into the medicinal cabinet as she grabbed a bottle of medicine. At the same time, she turned her head back and looked at him with an innocent look. What did you say earlier? I didn't hear you clearly. Mo Chi pointed his finger at her as it trembled non-stop. What situation was this? This young girl had actually stretched her hand into young sect master's medicinal cabinet and took out the medicine. He had simply seen a ghost alive. As the housekeeper, no one was clearer than Mo Chi on how many mechanisms had been set up in this small medical room. Li Moying's collections in the medical room were all priceless, so in comparison, he had also set up a lot of defense mechanisms. You can also listen on. If a thief were to enter the medical room to steal anything, then he probably hadn't even stepped into the room door before he was turned into a beehive by the flying darts mechanism. And in the front of the medicinal cabinet, there were large amounts of arrays set up, which could confuse one's sight. Unless Li Moying personally led the person, otherwise, most people were not able to find the medicinal cabinet. But now, this exquisitely set up mechanisms seemed as though a child playing house, spoilt by someone's casual wave of hand. While Mo Chi was left dumbstruck, Huang Yule took out another bottle of medicine from the other side. This is the medicine which Liu Bian prescribed for Li Moying, right? It smells exactly the same as what I had smelled previously. Speaking of that, today is full moon's night. Has Li Moying taken his medicine? When will he be back? Hearing this, Chi seemed as though a lightning had struck his brain silly as he finally regained some consciousness. Combining all the things which the young lady said earlier and adding on to her casual way of breaking a high-leveled array and the sight and ability to see a mechanism, his brain revealed a name of someone who had been missing for some time. Bai. Third miss? Your third miss, Bai? Huang Yueli then raised her head up and smiled at him as she said, "Isn't that me? Although I know we haven't met for such a long time, and everyone definitely misses me. But surely you don't need to show me this expression as though you've seen a ghost, right? Isn't this considered as seeing a living ghost?" Chi felt as though he was about to faint from fright as he took several deep breaths and speaking in a quivering voice. Third miss, why are you here?" Huang Yueli replied, "I heard that you all have been searching for me, and I'm worried if I go and look for you guys by myself, I might miss you all again, so I just came directly to Celestial Light Sect and wait." Chi still hadn't gained back his senses, but aren't you being pursued by Ling Wenbin, and after that you disappeared? Where have you gone to? Why were we not able to find you at all? And where is Ling Wenbin right now? Huang Yueli smiled as she responded, "You just pile one lump of questions, so how do you want me to reply? This is a long story. When I have time in future, I'll explain then. Now, can I trouble you to look for Li Moying urgently, and tell him that I'm here, asking him to come look for me?" Hearing this, Chi seemed as though he was awoken from his dream as he immediately jumped right up. Right. This matter must be reported to Master immediately. During this period, Master thought you had died in Ling Wenbin's hands, and was simply heartbroken. If he knew that you're all right, he will go mad from joy. I'll go inform Master right now. Third miss, please wait here for a moment. Don't move anywhere. Huang Yueli smiled. Go ahead, where could I run off to? Chi nodded, not daring to waste any time, as he slipped out from the house in a puff. Huang Yueli stayed in the house alone, thinking that she was about to meet Li Moying soon, as her spirits lifted greatly. She found some water first, and mixing it with the medicine, she washed off the disguise on her face, revealing a delicate, dainty face. Due to the successful advancement, the seal on her flame spirit physique had unveiled another layer, as her looks also became even more alluring, as though a rose would shed its shyness, slowly blossoming, revealing a peerless glamour which made one enraptured. Right now, her looks were already on a top-rated beauty level. You can also listen on. Although Murong Fei was publicly known as the #1 beauty in the entire South Sky region, but if she were really to stand next to Huang Yueli, she was just not enough to be compared with her. Huang Yueli retrieved a bronze mirror as she looked in the reflection and felt slightly dissatisfied. Previous life, she was much prettier, helming an incomparable, astonishing beauty. It was rumored that Mu Chenging had just taken one look at her from afar, and it was love at first sight. Now she wasn't as beautiful as before. If he were to regain his memories, would he be dissatisfied? But even it was too late, even if he was dissatisfied. She had already relied on him, so don't he even dare to think of ditching her. The man whom she, Huang Yueli, chose, how was it even possible for him to escape from her clutches? Although she had this thinking, Huang Yueli rearranged a new hairstyle and smeared a little lipstick on her lips before she nodded her head in satisfaction. But after she had prepared everything, Li Moying still hadn't returned. Huang Yueli guessed that it must be an extremely important matter which Murong De was discussing with him, which was why Chi couldn't be found either. But she wasn't anxious, so she continued to tour around the house. She had been to the initial few rooms yesterday, and there were still a number of rooms at the end of the corridor which she hadn't been to. Huang Yueli continued to look around, and while looking, she exclaimed in admiration, "Wow, Li Moying is really rich. He has so many of these 9th-tier materials here. Who on earth set up these mechanisms for him? Just short of me by a little. And, very good, he's so rich, looks like he will be able to provide for me. Huang Yueli mumbled to herself in satisfaction as she reached the last room's entrance at the end of the corridor. She casually pushed open the door and unexpectedly realized that the door didn't open up. Huang Yueli lowered her head and discovered that the door had been set up with an array, which will obstruct those without any identification to enter the room. Huang Yueli placed her hand on the door and injected some profound energy, and this time the room door immediately opened up. Weird. Why would he set up a lock in his own house? Just how much treasures are stored in this room? I gotta look carefully, not allowing him to have his own private stash in future. As Huang Yueli taunted, she walked in, and as she stood in the middle of the room, she turned around to look at the surroundings, and immediately she went into a daze. Celestial Light's Sect's main hall. Mo-Chi was negotiating with the guards at the entrance. Senior brothers, I'm so sorry, but I have something extremely important to inform young sect master. So will you please help me to inform him? But the guards took no action. Protector Mo, sect master and young sect master are discussing very important things. If you have anything urgent, can't you just wait a while? But my matter is extremely urgent. I must inform young sect master immediately. Mo-Chi anxiously replied. The guards blocked his entrance, refusing him entry. Protector Mo, we are considered as friends, so I'll tell you the truth. West Sky Region's Green Cloud sect has sent someone over again. Last time they suggested a tournament with our sect. In the end, they were beaten hands down by young sect master. So this time, not knowing what trickery they are up to, they actually sent someone over again. I heard that something big is going to happen. There's such a matter? Mo-Chi replied in surprise. Isn't that so? So no matter how important your matter is, can it be more important that the sect's benefits? Just wait a while more. The guards patted Mo-Chi's shoulder as they closed the main door's entrance at his face. Mo-Chi really wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He dared to bet that in Li Moying's heart, third Mrs. Matter was the most important matter, which overtook his own life. You can also listen on. What West Sky Region's Green Cloud sect, the sect's life and death, as compared to Third Miss, was all a fart. However, others wouldn't think in the same way as him. So, Mo-Chi was sorrowfully rejected outside the door, and no matter what he said, didn't went through. But luckily, he was here to deliver good news. So even if Li Moying wasn't pre-informed about the news where Huang Yueli had returned, it was just a matter of being happy a little later, and it would not lead to any serious consequences. So Mo-Chi didn't take any drastic action, only walking around anxiously at the entrance of the main hall. For Moron to look for Li Moying, it was definitely for a huge matter, because beside the two of them, there were several elders in the sect who were in the main hall, discussing for an entire day and still not coming out yet. It was only in the evening around 7 p.m. when the main hall's door suddenly opened. Li Moying's tall statue appeared from the entrance. Mo-Chi shot up like an arrow and was just about to open his mouth when he suddenly noticed that standing right beside Li Moying was Murong Fei. The words which were by Mo-Chi's mouth were swallowed back instantly. Everyone knew that Murong Fei couldn't stand all those ladies who appeared beside Li Moying, especially jealous of Third Mississippi. The last time she was in Celestial Light Academy, she even went to look for Third Mrs. Trouble. And now, she was just standing there, so if he were to speak about Third Miss's whereabouts, would it cause trouble for Third Miss? Just this, but of hesitation from Mo-Chi, Li Moying had already departed forward continuously. Tonight was full moon's night, and now that the day was starting to turn dark, there was a possibility that his soul detachment illness would act up any time. So he didn't dare to delay any time, and must rush back to his own courtyard quickly. Li Moying's speed was extremely swift. Even Mo-Chi couldn't catch up to him. But, taking a turn of thoughts, wouldn't Li Moying see Huang Yueli when he returned? There was no difference whether he reported or not, so he might as well stop pursing him. But even though Mo-Chi didn't pursue, Murong Fei on the other hand followed him closely, blindly following suit by Li Moying's side. Eldest senior brother, what do you think of it? Earlier, my father's suggestion. You don't seem to agree to it totally? Li Moying replied coldly. I respect Master's decision. As long as he feels it can be done, I have no objection. Really? But, eldest senior brother, wait for me. You're walking so fast, I can't catch up at all. Li Moying's footsteps were so brisk that, even though he didn't need to use any body movements or profound skills, Murong Fei was already having a hard time catching up. Just a little while later, she was already panting hard and so tired that her feet turned to jelly as she shouted out from behind, hoping Li Moying would stop at his tracks. But Li Moying totally ignored her as he flashed and dashed into his own courtyard. When Immerse, who had been following Li Moying, saw Murong Fei's withered look, a gloating smile appeared on his face as he specially stopped and laughed. Eldest young miss, thanks for your trouble, following my master even though he's gone back to rest. But unfortunately, today is full moon's night. Murong Fei was filled with thoughts of following the man and totally forgot what day was today. It was only after Immerse's reminder when she suddenly recalled, and her expression instantly changed. So, tonight is full moon. Yes, it's my negligence. Murong Fei immediately wiped off the sweat on her forehead. Then, I won't disturb eldest senior brother from his rest today. I'll go back now. Saying that, Murong Fei immediately turned around and ran. What joke was that? When eldest senior brother's soul detachment illness acted up, that was extremely terrifying. You can also listen on. Furthermore, by that time, he won't recognize anyone and would kill anyone he met. Murong Fei, was still young, so why would she not care about her own life? The senior eldest brother at this timing, it was best to avoid him far, far away. Anyway, they have a long way ahead of them, so when he had returned back to normal, she would then continue to seduce him. Looking at Murong Fei's back as she left in a hurry, Immerse gave a cold harumph of disdain. Only know how to run away at this juncture. No wonder Master only likes third miss and not like you. Although they were only shadow guards, but Li Moying was surrounded by intelligent people, so it wasn't any wonder that they could differentiate the person's character rather well. Li Moying was usually extraordinarily handsome, overbearing, and strong, so naturally he was every female's favored match. But whenever his soul detachment illness acted up at his deepest pain situation, where he turned into a devil from hell, no one was able to get close to him. So how many could treat him in the same way as before? Probably, there is only third miss who could do that. On full moon's night, Li Moying could not do without anyone taking care of him. Immerse just raised his foot as he was preparing to step in when he saw Immerse panting heavily right behind him. Wait. Second brother, don't go in. Immerse was stunned. What happened? Immerse hooked his arm around his neck as he couldn't help but laugh out. Tell you a piece of good news. Third miss is back, and she's all right. Moreover, she's in Master's room right now. What? How is that possible? Immerse was extremely shocked. It's real. Even more real than a real pearl. So, let's stay away further tonight. Anyway, even if Master's soul detachment illness really acted up, third miss will be able to settle it. So let's not go disturb them exchanging their lovey-dovey words. Immerse finally got out of his shock as he slowly revealed a smile. You're absolutely right. He doesn't need us here now, come. Let's go grab a drink. As long as third miss was back, to everyone, life had instantly been lit up in colors once again. At this moment, Huang Yueli was just walking to the last storage room at the very end of the corridor, as she admired Li Moying's collections. The room which she was in right now was the secret room which Administrator Chen was talking about, but she herself didn't know that this room was out of bounds. Furthermore, she didn't feel that there was any problem at all, because this place had stored all the things which were related to her. Including the various profound armaments which she had gifted Li Moying during their outdoor training and various medicinal pills. Even the cloth which she used to help bandage his wound when they fell off the cliff and the wooden tub which she gave to him with the Spirit Saint's spring water were all kept here, and arranged neatly in the room. An anti-dust array was even set up, storing it carefully as though it were some precious gems. The only thing which was missing was the profound lunar spirit mirror which she had refined personally, but Huang Yueli didn't need to think before she knew that this item must have been kept by his side. Seeing Li Moying valued the things which she had gave him, Huang Yueli's heart was touched as her eyes started to sting slightly. What is this? This stinky man is really a Scrooge, a cheapskate. I took so much time to refine the profound armaments for him, and he actually can't bear to use it. I gave it to him for defense, and isn't it a complete waste to not use it? Really? Huang Yueli quietly mumbled to herself, and although her mouth was filled with complaints, but she was feeling incredibly sweet on the inside. Just at this moment, she suddenly felt an immense danger approaching. You can also listen on. Immediately following that, the half-open door behind her was pushed open with violent force, and an overbearing and pure thunder, attributed profound energy, came charging mercilessly towards her back. Huang Yueli hastily moved aside, but the attack speed of the person behind her was simply too fast as he used lightning's power, giving out an air-breaking sound. Just hearing the sound alone made Huang Yueli's scalp turn numb. She knew that she absolutely could not evade it, so she could only choose to scream out loudly, "Li Moying, it's me." What? When Li Moying was heading back from the outside, he already felt his head getting heavier and heavier, as there was a faint pain, which were the signs of soul detachment illness acting up. He tried his best to suppress this feeling, hoping that he would not lose his self-control so quickly. But the more he tried to control it, the more uncomfortable he felt. Just as his body was turning hotter and hotter, as the thunder-attributed energy was about to explode out, he suddenly heard a noise coming from his house. Furthermore, it was coming from his most valued secret room. The items in that room weren't extremely valuable, but it was all given by Huang Yueli to him personally, and those were all his warmest memories. In future, if he and Lier were really to separate, then he would use those objects to curb his missing her. But someone actually entered that important room. Li Moying hadn't got the time to think carefully yet on why that heavily secured room, which was set up with various arrays, was opened up by someone. Right now his judgment had been invaded with a raging profound energy, and there was only one thought left, which was to immediately strike that daring thief to death on the spot. How dare he touch the things which Lier gave to him? It simply was. Dying 10,000 times wasn't enough. Li Moying instinctively struck his first move, and on seeing that thief about to be struck down, he suddenly discovered that this thief's figure seemed a little familiar. Following that, he heard a melodious and ultra-familiar voice as it rang from not too far away. "Li Moying, it's me. What were you trying to do to me?" That voice was like a bolt of lightning in broad daylight, as Li Moying quivered and instantly awoke. This was Lier's voice. His body had already made a reaction over his brain, as he charged towards Huang Yueli immediately. Thunder-attributed profound energy had already left his body, and it could not be retrieved, but Li Moying's own speed was much faster than the lightning. He managed to reach Huang Yueli's side on time as he tightly hugged her slender waist, embracing her as they rolled on the ground. The lightning struck heavily on Huang Yueli's original position, and there was just half a meter of distance between that area and where they were lying on. As for the mahogany table which was struck, it had already turned into a charred piece of wood, as it kept fuming, choking smoke repeatedly. When Huang Yueli turned back to take a look, and she immediately broke out in sweat. Heavens, she knew Li Moying was very powerful, but this was just too strong, and his speed was just too fast. In the past, she had never experienced it personally, and had just seen Li Moying beating other people up, so she didn't know any better. Now that she herself became Li Moying's attack target, she then realized the extent of how powerful Li Moying was. Being the same 7th stage realm practitioner in Ling Wenbin's hands, not only was she able to escape, Moreover, under special circumstances, she was able to counterstrike beautifully. You can also listen on that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.